the budget hearings for fiscal year 2025. The fiscal year for 2025 budget discussions will begin at this moment. Madam Clerk, do we have a quorum? Please call the roll.
Here. Present.
Present.
Here.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Today we will begin the entire Department of Public Safety and all of the other sections connected to the consent decree as well. The rules of engagement are today. Every member is allowed 15 minutes for discussions and questions. If they need additional time, they will go back on the list. We want to accommodate everyone who has questions. We've also asked for the key administrators, directors, commissioners, et cetera, to be here from the various departments and divisions in case there's any other additional questions. I want to thank everyone who was here yesterday. On behalf of the Council President, I thought it went well for the most part, the budgetary discussions. And again, our main focus today is on budget, but of course, when we talk about budget, there's also service implications, so we're going to try to be as flexible as we can. But again, our main focus will be on the dollars that are being allocated and suggested to us by the administration. Again, to the viewing public, City Council reviews the budget. It must be approved and passed by April 1st of each year. And this is the not only the general fund budget, but all of the other enterprise counts and special funds as well we'll be discussing in the course of this next week and a half. So at this point, we're going to get into Public Safety Administration. Staff, what page?
Page 218.
218. In your
Public
book?
Safety Administration.
Okay.
Chief Director Dorna A. Drummond.
Okay.
Page 219. 2024 unaudited salaries and wages, $3,255,066. 2025 budgeted, $3,433,898. Page 221. Total expenditures 2024 unaudited, $5,324,082. 2025 budgeted, $6,017,826. Page 222. Number of employees as of December 2024, 44. Budgeted for 2025, 47. Chair.
Thank you very much. I hope everyone can hear that. And again, please want to make sure everybody talks into your microphone. To the Director, Finance, do you have any comments before we open up for questions?
Yeah, good morning, Mr. Chair and committee. Looking forward to the discussion today. We do have some green sheets today that we'd like to address before we go through the review.
Okay.
So those would be pages 219 and 220 that you all should have in front of you. And then there are also some green sheets for 221 and 222. And I will have Ms. Gallagher go over the specifics of the changes.
I only have the green sheets from 2021, 2022. Yeah. Okay, so we're going to need the other green sheets, whoever has them. To the viewing public, green sheets are where there have been changes changes and or mistakes in the printing of the document. And so, okay, let me see.
Somehow we missed it.
Yeah, we're missing 219. Okay. Did you provide those for all members of the committee? Yes. Who did they go to? Wait a minute, we're going to look. We want to make sure everybody has those before we proceed here. So take out the pages in your book, the old pages, and implement your new pages. I need 219, 220. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
I only
Okay.
have- I have 220,
We'll wait till everybody
21,
has their
22.
pages.
I need
Okay. Everybody have them yet? Yeah. Okay.
I have 19, 20, 21,
Okay.
22.
Okay, Director, you want to comment?
Through the chair. So the green sheets you see in front of you today.
Wait a minute, Mr. Director, introduce your team to the viewing public.
Sure, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through the chair to the committee, we have Jim Gentile and Nicole Gallagher, the budget manager for the city.
Thank you.
Through the chair, the green sheets you have today, we're just moving 2 payroll specialists from public safety admin onto the fire budget. They actually are housed at fire and they do payroll for fire. So when we get to fire, you'll also see green sheets for those 2 employees.
Give us the line item where that's at.
So that's in full-time permanent
Wait, and that's on what page?
on page 219.
Okay.
It's a highlighted number, the full-time permanent number. That was reduced by those 2 employees' salaries, and their associated benefits are underneath that, under the benefits.
So it was reduced from the 3.1 to 3.0, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Keep going.
And there's no additions to the budget. It was completely budget neutral move of 2 employees from admin to fire.
Okay. That's on 219. 221. Then what on 220 has changed?
Nothing on page 220 has changed through the chair.
Okay.
The total bottom line dollar amount changed on page 221.
221.
Correct.
Okay.
And the head count on page 222 went down by 2 payroll specialists.
Okay, so we went from what was in the white page, $6 million down to 5.8,
Correct.
correct? Okay.
Yeah, through the chair to the committee, the way we've organized these green sheets is any changes are highlighted, so you should see them highlighted in gray
Right.
on your sheet.
Right. Okay, let's go back to page 219. Under travel, on other training and professional dues under travel, there's been a big bump in travel, and then same with tuition and registration fees. Can somebody explain that to us?
Yeah, through the chair to the committee, that's 50,000 of that is budgeted every year for the ambassador program. In previous years, they have not spent all of those funds.
Well, okay, wait a minute. You travel, you went from 7,498, now it's 66,000. So,
Yeah. Yeah, to the chair, that 50,000 of that was set aside for the ambassador program.
okay. There's a question, Mr.
Just
Chairman?
on that point,
Yes.
we're gonna have that recurring issue all day today again, so we might want to try to clarify that up front because we don't have the budgeted from last year versus the budgeted
Yeah, that's
this
the
year.
problem.
So we're gonna continue to have that looking like it's budgeted for 7,000, but you're jumping to 66,000. So just might as well prepare everybody for that grueling
Right.
question all day. Okay?
Yeah, through the chair to the committee, I do want to address that quickly. We did have a meeting afterwards and looked at ways that we can add that. So we are, I know it was legislated yesterday as well. We are on board with that. We agree, and that will be fixed for the next budget.
Okay, tuition and registration fees. Explain that big bump.
To the chair, that is also for the ambassador program, 150,000 of that.
Okay. Then you're gonna need to supply us with a broader explanation as it pertains to the ambassador program, because I need a better explanation on that one. Okay, on the back, on 220, under food, big increase, printed materials, a big increase, and then under, just-in-time office supplies. Explain that one.
Through the chair, these are all items that pertain to the ambassador program. So the ambassador program, they bring in students, or I think between the ages of 18 and 21, to go through public safety, go through each division and see if they like the program and want to join forces. So these were budgeted items in 2024. They did reduce the number of ambassadors to 10 for 2025, but the budget line items that you're
So
asking about
you're-
are all pertaining to that
So
ambassador program.
the 95,000 for just-in-time office supplies is for the ambassador program?
That's correct.
Then you're going to, Director, you're going to supply me all the dollar amounts for the ambassador program. Because if, how many are in the program? How many, just 10?
There's 10 budgeted for 2025.
It seems like we're spending a lot of money on just 10 people. I mean, am I missing something here?
Through the chair, I believe Director Drummond. would
Director?
Like to address this.
Good morning. Councilman
morning,
Wilson.
Director.
Morning, Chair. As far as the ambassador program, there's dollars that's committed or budgeted for the ambassadors program. As stated, program is relatively new. We are in the process of reevaluating the program itself. The dollars that are for the program, we're trying to
Listen up, everyone, please.
spend that judiciously and in a responsible way. The food item, if I can go back to that,
Yes.
I believe is, and again, if you're talking about under page 220, the line item for food, is that what you're talking
Yes.
about?
Just-in-time office
Chair.
supplies, 95,000 for the
Well,
ambassador
initially, let's go
program?
back to the food. I believe that the $10,000, again, I want to make sure we're talking about the right line item, correct? $10,000?
Yes.
Well, the $10,000 is just not specifically for the ambassadors program. That's for activations for the Department of Public Safety. For example, if there's a critical incident or others that we may require food for our officers or EMS technicians or firefighters, this is what that particular line item is for.
Okay.
So we can activate it. In fact, when we had situation with the fire downtown,
Yes, sir.
we actually utilized some of that money there. Over $300 because we ordered food for individuals in the emergency operations center.
Okay.
So that's for that particular line item.
Okay, on page 221, staffing levels, comparison of staffing levels, and on page 222, you indicated there was a reduction in what area, the director? I mean, to the finance director?
Through the chair, there were 2 payroll specialists. It went down to 3
And they went where, again, you said the various other divisions?
in Division of Fire.
Okay.
Yeah, to the chair, if I clarify,
Yes,
that
yes,
is
Director.
correct. Those 2 individuals were with under the Department of Public Safety admin. They were doing the payroll for the Division of Fire. We felt it best to put those individuals, made a request through the Finance Department, who approved it, to move those 2 individuals back under the Division of Fire for them to continue doing the payroll. Under there, we also moved the budget associated with those 2 individuals back under the Division of Fire.
Okay. Department of Public Safety Administration, questions of the committee. Who had a question? Councilman McCormick.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to speak in pertaining to the line item on the ambassador program. I hope that we keep that funded. Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I attended a fire training, and we had probably 10 young people as a part of that program, Chair, that up from all over Cleveland, that look like Cleveland, that were learning about the fire department and, kind of working with the existing firefighters. So, and they had food there, and it was hot dogs. So I can tell you they're not spending extravagantly. Maybe you want to spend a little bit more on something a little healthier, but it was just hot dogs and chips for the ambassador program. So, Mr. Chairman, again, I just want to speak in support of that program and that line item.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Casey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, to the director, who's the special assistant to the mayor?
To the chair, that would be Michael Herb, H-E-R-B. He's a senior strategist for the Department of Public Safety admin.
And Mr. Chairman, to the director, is he a police officer or a former police officer or anything?
To the chair, he's a former police officer from the city of Houston, Texas. He was
Okay.
also the former director of the Fusion Center.
All right. And
Wait a minute, could you, his last name is what, is it?
Herb, sorry.
H-E-R-B.
H-E-R-B. Thank you.
And then, Mr. Chairman, to the director, last year we had allocated $50,000, $10,000 for each police district. Is that in your budget here with the administration? I thought it was in admin last year. Is it in your budget again this year?
Director?
Through the chair to Councilman Casey, I don't believe that's in our budget. That's budgeted for each of the 5 districts, as you're aware, $10,000 per district. I believe that's under their budget, but I don't want to speak out of turn. I'll have the finance department answer.
Gallagher?
Through the chair, that's in a special revenue fund. It's 10, I could get you the sub fund, but it's a special revenue fund.
Is that money allocated again for 2025?
Who can answer that?
Yep. Through the chair of the councilperson, we will load the money in there, and it's separated by, there's 5 projects in there for each of the districts.
Right.
So yeah, we will fund it with 10,000 additional.
Right, so in 2024, we allocated the 50,000, 10,000 for each district. Is that money in the budget? Is there $50,000 in the budget for 2025, 10,000 for each district?
Whoever can answer
Through the
that.
chair, it's in the police section.
So you'll be able to point it out when we get, so it's not under admin, like I thought it was under admin last year. But it's in the police budget then, correct? So we can talk about it when we get to the police budget.
You're going to clearly need to define it when we get down, either a line item or whatever. It's got to be clearly defined.
Yeah. Through the chair, or to the chair, we also put it in the special revenue fund so it continues, so at
Yes,
year end it
okay.
doesn't evaporate, kind of go to the bottom
Thank you.
line. So we wanted to make sure that funds were
Thank you.
carried forward.
And then one other
Yes, sir.
one other
Go ahead.
question, Mr. Chairman, to the director. Your property rental, $214,500. Where is it that Public Safety Administration rents property from?
Through the chair,
Ms. Gallagher?
that's the Family Justice Center lease.
That's for what we're using over at the Justice Center.
What page is that on?
Page 220, under contractual services.
Okay, contractual.
So that's the rent we pay for, I don't think that,
Wait a minute. Whoever can answer.
To the chair, to Councilman Casey, that's at 75 Area View. There's a Family Justice Center over there in Area View. It's not at the Justice Center Police.
so that's
headquarters.
75 Erie View? And what does the Family Justice Center do?
It's a one-stop shop for victims to be serviced at that particular location.
That's a lot of rent for a year. How much space do we have over there?
To the chair, I can get you the exact amount of space. I don't have it in front of me.
All right, and then my last question, because Brent's going to come up with the police next one. How close are we to opening the new police headquarters, Mr. Chairman, to the director?
Whoever can answer that.
To the chair, I'm hopeful that we'll be in there sometime in spring of 2026.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, any other questions of Public Safety Administration?
Just real quick on that
Yes,
point,
Mr. Chairman.
If you could, with 75 Erie View, it's also the Health Department, CRB, and I think a couple of other organizations that are in there.
Sustainability.
Wait a minute.
Sustainability.
Wait a minute. Through the chair.
So my question is, through the chair,
Yeah.
is the money that is put in place for the rent over there strictly being floated by safety, or is it being assessed to all of the different departments?
Who can answer that?
Through the chair, that's in each division's budget, the rent at Erie View.
Okay. Thank you. So I just wanted to make sure that I understood.
Okay,
Thank
so.
you.
On that point?
Yes, Councilman Kate.
On that point, Mr. Chairman, to the director, can you get us, by the end of budget hearing, how much money we're paying 75 Erie View for rent, and then broken down, because this is a lot of money to pay for rent, and that's just from police admin. So if health is also being charged rent, and sustainability is being charged rent, I want to know how much we're paying for 75 Erie View a year, or how much we have budgeted for rent, because That's an awful lot of money just coming out of one. So when we
I
do a deeper dive to these other ones,
Yeah.
we need to figure out exactly how much money we're paying that over there for rent. Thank you.
I would concur with you. That's we need to find out what that dollar amount is in light of the fact that we've always talked around the table of trying to get city operations in city buildings. That's been a great concern. Yes, yes, and I have Mr. Slife.
Just a 10-second point, building off of Councilman Casey on that point, Chair. I'd also add to his request an update on the facilities master plan that Chief Tewin was running on all of our rental properties. And I mean, again, a couple years ago we talked about, Chair, does it make sense to buy a building to house all these offices versus spending all this rent? So I know they were studying that, Chair, so just requesting an update.
Yes. Okay.
Make sure our staff got that too.
And that's and not only that, but it's been brought to my attention that we have all these closed CMSD schools. Why aren't we working to facilitate, acquire one of these school buildings? So
There could be a lot of solutions out
right.
there. Thank
Okay.
you.
I have Councilman Slife and Councilman Jones. Councilman Slife.
Thank you, and to the CFO, my role is usually to obsess over small dollar amounts, so buckle up. But I guess we alluded to this earlier, but the $223,000 for training, and there's also a $296 for materials and supplies. The explanation was given as to what they're for. I would like to know how that number is derived, because that's the same number that was given to us in last year's budget, and we came nowhere close to hitting it either times or in previous budgets. So I guess my question is are there situations within the budget where we are year over year putting in repeating numbers maybe unjustifiably when we know that we're not going to come close to that, and could that money be better allocated somewhere else within a division, department, or elsewhere?
Who can answer that?
To the
Director
chair,
Drummond?
to the chair, to Councilman Slife. Which line item are you referring to?
So well, let's start with the other training and professional dues, the $223,000, which includes the ambassadors. Last year, the unaudited is $16,000 spent, but it was also budgeted for $223,000. So we left basically $200,000 plus on the table within that line item. Is it practical, instead of saying $223,000 for 2025, to say maybe $100,000, because we've never even come close to that number? That would still give us sufficient leeway to expend more without locking up an additional $123,000.
So you're not indicating they're puffing that line item. Is that what you're?
I did not use that word.
Okay.
Through the chair to Councilman Slife. The travel is not only for the ambassadors, it's also for all of public safety admin. Last year, when I transitioned from my role as chief of police to safety director, I had the task of filling my staff. I had vacancies that I need to fill. My staff, we're fully staffed now with my assistant directors, which are 4 assistant safety directors and a senior strategist. Part of my task with them, a mandate, is to make sure that we have sufficient training for all the members of public safety admin, including our ambassadors program. So those numbers will go up. My intent is to make sure that we get the best possible training for our people, which obviously is going to require dollars. So I would not like to change that. Again, we're looking to enhance our training, and that's where it comes out of that particular line item. Last year I was not fully staffed, so we were not able to expend those dollars relative to training for my people as well as the ambassador program.
Okay.
And also part of that too, and I'm sorry to be long-winded, is the ambassador program is under the process of being reevaluated. To the Councilman McCormack's point, it's an important program. It's not going anywhere. We're just reevaluating it. We want to make sure that we give young people the opportunities to have a life in the public safety, whether that's police, fire, EMS, animal care control. And I think this is a great opportunity, so we're in the process of reevaluating that as well.
Thank you.
And
Councilman Slife.
of course, I I hope that my resume of being pro-worker speaks for itself, and I support training. I want to support staff. I just want to make sure that whether it's intentionally or unintentionally sort of parking money that subsequently later in the year has to be transferred into salary and wages. Let's put a pin in that for a second. In the professional services, we have budgeted $8,000. The unaudited, let me go back and look at this.
Go back and make sure you mention the page number.
Yes, thank you. I'm looking at multiple screens at the same time, so
Okay.
that just makes it confusing. On page 220, we did expend, I know this is not a lot of money, but we spent $16,000 last year on professional services, but we had only budgeted for 8. So is that, should we be budgeting for $8,000 this year, or should we be budgeting more for professional
Director.
services?
Director of Finance? Who can
To
comment
the,
on that?
to the chair, we're budgeted for 8,000. I think that's to the chair. There's Councilman Slife. At this time, I believe it's sufficient. That professional services through Snyder Blake for payroll specialist. Again, we want to make sure that we're judicious and responsible with spending city dollars. And going from 16 to 8,000, I believe, is prudent, and I believe that's sufficient for our needs at this particular time.
Okay. My final question, for the total department on page 221, the expenditures last year unaudited were $5.3 million, but the budgeted amount in the 2024 budget was about rounding up 6.1. I don't see in the December transfer ordinance a transfer within Department of Public Safety admin. I see transfers within the other divisions. To the CFO or to whomever, did that extra $1 million or so, just is that part of the carryover balance? Did that get transferred over earlier in the year?
Through the chair to the council person, yes, if it's not in the transfer and it just falls to the bottom line, and that's part of the carryover that carries into 2025.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Councilman Jones?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Looking over here, first let me just say, I think that the Safety Administration is doing a good job under the leadership of Mr. Dorman. And the questions I have on this budget here as administration is the one dealing with the consent decree. How many of our officers in the portion of administration is actually working on the consent decree? If we had to look at this line item, what number would that be? What area? How many employees?
I don't know if that would be in here, but Director, could you comment?
To the chair, to Councilman Jones, the DOJ and the individuals associated with that, at least through the Division of Police, is not under public admin's budget.
You said is or isn't?
It is not.
So no one in the administration under your...
Public safety admin is part of that DOJ budget. That's correct.
So no one's there doing that, okay. So, and the only reason why I asked is because it's a part of your summary. And it said, and that was the only issue. So I guess you pull from other areas to help you with this, I presume.
Through the chair to the council person, there's a separate budget for the DOJ and that we'll be going over. In a little bit.
So can you explain to me then, Mr. Chairman, to the safety director, what do we actually do from your department with the consent decree?
Director, briefly, because we are going to go down to that department.
To
This is
the
farther
chair,
down.
through the chair to Councilman Jones, as far as public safety admin, we support the Division of Police. Although we don't have the budget for the DOJ, the public safety admin supports Chief Todd and her staff in executing the consent decree and also supporting Dr. Anderson and her team and the police accountability team as well. So we support them and assist them to make sure that our officers are in compliance, as well as the city, are in compliance with the provisions of the consent decree.
Excellent. And Mr. Chairman, to the safety director, we heard a little bit about rent. Do your portion of this pay any rent to 55 Public Square building? or the building behind 55, where we have all of the cameras set up, the main
Yeah.
system of
205.
Yeah, 205.
St. Clair.
To the chair, no, as a matter of fact, 205 St. Clair is owned by the city of Cleveland.
I see.
Right.
No further questions, Mr.
Thank
Chairman.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
to the
Min-
Safety Director.
Thank you, Con. Any other questions of public administration and members of the council? Okay, thank you. We're going to move on. Ms. Ubakun?
Page 223, Division of Police, Chief Dorothy Todd. Page 225, 2024 unaudited salaries and wages, $154,682,934. 2025 budgeted, $152,664,579. Page 227, 2024 unaudited total expenditures, $230,989,498. 2025 budgeted, $236,468,048. Page 230, number of employees as of December 2024, 1,544. 2025 budgeted, 1,939. Chair.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Let me go back. There's no green pages, correct?
To the chair, no, there are no green pages in this
Okay.
section.
On page 225, under uniform overtime, once again, and we brought this up during the budget briefing, you are recommending to us overtime of around 14 million. Yet, if you look at your overtime costs over the last 4 years, they're usually double that. Explain to us again why you continue to lowball overtime, uniform overtime, and then have to come back to us at the end of the year for transfer ordinance.
Yeah.
Someone explain that to us.
So to the chair, we budget the 14 million. That is our goal for the year. Obviously, there's a lot of vacancies in this division that we need to fill. And with that goal of filling those vacancies, hopefully many of them this year, that would lower the overtime costs. We've also, I know that there's been a change from 10-hour to 12-hour shifts
Right.
to kind of mitigate that, and that has worked in terms of slowing the growth rate of the overtime costs. But I don't think that, we want to incentivize higher overtime costs by raising the budgeted amount. I think we want to work towards reaching that goal of 14 million and kind of bring down what we've had in the last few years.
Okay. But again, the course of these hearings, it's all about transparency. And so at the end of the day, I want to state again for the record, there's no way you're going to obtain a goal of 14 million for police overtime. It's not reasonable. It's not even a possibility in light of the fact that we do not have the numbers within the ranks to fill critical positions. So I'm just stating that for a record again, because the last 3 years we have done transfer ordinances to cover the police overtime. So again, let's just state that for the record. On page 227, under maintenance contracts, you went from, in 2023, 1.4 million, 2024, 4.9 million. Explain what transpired there.
What page, Mr.
On
Chairman?
page 227.
Through the chair, if you recall from 2024, we did a supplemental during the year, and we added $6 million to police's budget. They need to do some catch up on the Axon contract. So they did pay out about $4 million last year in one-time payments from that line item.
And explain what that was for, if you can recall.
Through the chair, that's the body cameras.
Okay. So that would reflect in the 4.9?
Through the chair, that's correct.
Okay.
And also, if I can,
yes,
Vice Chair,
Chief.
to the chair,
Director.
we also had We also implemented the dash cameras. You know, we've had the body cameras
Yes.
since 2015, but last year we fully implemented also the dash cameras as well, and we're caught up with our I believe our fees and I believe maintenance, not fees, but maintenance relative to the body cameras that was owed to Axon.
So the 3.9 that you're suggesting to the council now will cover all of the Axum contract, will cover the dash cams and body cams? Is that what we're hearing?
Yeah, to the chair, we're expecting the body cams to be about 3.4 million, I believe, and then $1 million for, approximately $1 million, a little less than that, for IT.
Okay, so you will supply that in writing, that request. Thank you. On page 228, under miscellaneous revenue, explain those to us. You went from 8.6 to 14.7. Now you're recommending 12.2.
Through the chair, the revenues from '24, so 9 million of those revenues are always the airport detail that we have, the police officers at the airport, we get reimbursed from the airport.
Yes.
The additional 5 million, the police do have traffic escorts for a lot of sports teams that we get reimbursed for. And there's also ARPA grant reimbursements for the police on certain grants through ARPA. They get reimbursed for their wages and overtime.
But wouldn't that be in the grant revenue line item?
Through the chair, it was just posted in expenditure recoveries.
Okay, we'll make a request to explain, provide to us the 14 million, where that revenue came from. Okay, on page 229, under protective services, police trainee, last year in the budget was 181 for police trainees. You're recommending 180 this year. Director, where do you believe that will take us within the ranks, total number of police officers?
Through the chair, to the council members, as you know, we're budgeted, the division of police, that is, they're budgeted for 1,350 officers. We're currently, the division of police, that is, they're currently at 1,208. That includes our cadets.
Mr. Chairman, can
Yes,
the director
he-
speak up, please?
Yes. Director, please use your mic. Thank you, sir.
Sure. As stated, we're currently staffed at, the Division of Police staffed at 1,208, but that includes our 78 recruits. Our plan through the expedited hiring events is we've had one in January, as this body is aware. We're in the process of having another one next quarter. And our goal is to have at a minimum 50 recruit per class. If we do that, we put 3 on, obviously that puts us about 150 recruits that we'll put through the academy and hopefully graduate at least one academy this year. It takes approximately 7 months
Yes.
to get officers through the academy, almost 8 months now. So we'll get one, we have a class that's going to be starting relatively soon. So if we're able to get 150 recruits in, that'll put our numbers up to, again, if you add the 1,208, but you have to factor in attrition as well. If not for attrition, that would put us up at 1,300 and, I'm sorry, 1,000, that put us 1,358. Again, that's without attrition. That's without attrition.
So if we are to remove the cadets from the existing number of police officers, how many officers do we have if you take the cadets out?
That'll give us 1,130, 1130.
Okay. Now, in 20, I'm trying to get a better understanding of this. In 2022, you hired 33 officers. In 2023, you hired, 2022, 33. 2023, you hired 22. And then, according to this figure, in 2024, you hired 134, but I don't know if that number's correct. 134, is that correct? Could give us,
And let me get to that page now.
so while you're looking, in 2022, we lost 200. 2023, we lost 165, and in 2024, we lost 117 officers left.
To the chair, is there a page that you're looking at?
This is our own research here.
Okay.
We're not keeping up.
So what we're trying to understand, we want the division of police ramped up. We commend and we totally support the expedited hiring. We've stated that publicly, and we'll continue to do what we can to support your efforts doing that. But at the end of the day, a moment ago we talked about overtime. Unless we fill these critical positions, we are not going to make a dent in overtime, and we're not going to fill the specialized units, and we're not going to address critical issues like traffic enforcement, which is a great concern to members of the City Council citywide. So what I want to hear from somebody as it pertains to assurances you're going to give us, you've asked for a certain dollar amount in this budget, but we want assurances that all efforts going to be made to fill the positions.
Through the chair and council, the body, that's the goal, that's our intent through the Division of Police, through the city, the finance department, the mayor's office. Through council, we're budgeted for, or you approve 180 recruits. Our intent through the Division of Police is to get 180 folks into our academies. That's our intent, that's our goal. We're going to strive to do that. As you stated, in 2024, we lost about 117 departures for various reasons.
Yes.
Resignations, retirements, medical pensions, and but the year before that, as you put out there, is 165. So that's a significant drop relative to our departures. And when you look at last year, bringing in sworn officers, 134. In comparison to the sworn departures, which was 117, there's a shift in officers or individuals who want to become police officers. Hiring officers is a challenge, not just here in the city of Cleveland. It's throughout the United States of America. It's very challenging. There's a paradigm shift relative to folks going into public service. And police is taking a pretty big hit in that. And it's for various reasons, which I'm not going to get into at this particular table. Through the the Mayor Bibb's Rise Initiative, the increased salaries, the bonuses for folks coming on, we've seen a shift. Coupled with the expedited hiring event, you've seen a difference in the amount of individuals who want to come into public service. And we're seeing that, the dividends of that in less officers leaving, especially when we're talking about folks that are retiring and going to other agencies. Because we have very competitive, again, based on Mayor Bibb's Rise Initiative, very competitive salaries for our officers now, which wasn't before. So the Rise Initiative is working. Coupled with having individuals who are prior police officers who have bonuses that to come on to this particular division, also having additional dollars for having advanced degrees, prior service with the military, all those type of things are incentives for individuals to become a law enforcement officer here in the city of Cleveland. Let me tell you, being a police officer is a very rewarding job. I think there's not enough that's said about how rewarding it can be. Very challenging, especially in our environment today, but it's very rewarding. You're able to take care of your family. I know, as you all know at this table, police chief for 2 years and with the Division of Police for over 35 years, and through the City of Cleveland and Division of Police in particular, was able to take care of myself. And that's what's important for folks to know out there. It's an honorable profession, and we're very competitive now with our salaries and the benefits and what one can be able to take care of themselves and their families and make a really good living, coupled with helping our residents and providing a service to our community.
Thank you, Director. And all of us know the importance of the Division of Police, and we appreciate our men and women in blue. And we appreciate the action being taken to expedite. But the reality is that we lost 382 officers in 3 years, and we only hired 189. That's the reality. So we want to make sure that we have assurances based on this budget that every action will be made possible to try to fill those positions. That's why this council is very supportive of your expedited hiring. And as I've said repeatedly, everything you've asked for, we've given you. I've never heard at that side of the table say that you didn't give us what we needed. The council president made it clear to me, as chairman of public safety, we are to give you everything you need, especially from a standpoint of equipment and manpower. We've done just that. So I will tell you, you mentioned about the Mayor's Rise initiative. So I want to say to the viewing public, without the support of Cleveland City Council, there'd be no Rise initiative. And for some reason, we're never mentioned in that. And that wears on me after a while. We're never mentioned the action that we take. We push for the body cams. We push for the dash cams. We pushed for the helicopters years ago. So I will tell you, I know where we've been at the body collectively. So I have.
Chair, if I
yes.
can, and if please, it was not a slight.
No, I don't.
For City Council whatsoever. For that to mention that, you're absolutely right. Without the body, your body, that we would not be able to do the things that we're able to do. So please, it was not a slight. No. We appreciate that. You have to approve the budget. You gave us 180 cadets. Our goal is to get to 100, and if we get over those numbers, we'll be coming back for additional dollars.
Thank you.
To bring additional cadets onto the Division of Police.
I didn't take it as a slight. I just wanted to state the facts that before us. I have Councilman Starr.
Do you have me, Mr.
Yes,
Chairman?
Councilman Jones, Councilman Harsh. Councilman Starr?
Thank you, Chairman. Just curiosity to make sure I got these numbers right, because we did have a budget retreat, and some of the numbers I've heard is relatively different than what we're hearing today. So through the chair to the director, as of 2024, our actual budget, did we have 1,142 officers?
Through the chair to Councilman Starr, the Division of Police is budgeted through council for 1,350 officers. That's what we're budgeted for.
Yes, and through the chair, yes, that's what you budgeted for. What your actual were 1,142 in 2024, correct?
Let him look. Who wants to comment on
Yeah, give us a second.
that? Okay, take your time.
To the chair, the councilperson, that's what they had at year-end in December of '24.
Okay, Chair, I'm sorry. Well, we had it then, yes.
Yes.
Sorry, I apologize.
Yep, no problem. So my questions is really trying to align what has happened the last 6 years. And when you look at the different numbers from 2019, you started off with a budget of 1,605 officers, and you actually ended with 1,550, which was a difference of 55 officers. But then when you look at 2020, we had budgeted for 1,610 officers, and you ended that year with 1,535. In 2021, you had budgeted for the same amount as last year of 2020, 1,610, and you actually had 1,402 officers, which is a decline of 133 officers. And when you look into 2022, we're budgeted for 1,640, and then you actually had 1,292 officers, and what that difference is 110, which is short. When you look at the 2023, when we said we were getting rid of ghost positions, it became budgeted for 1,498 officers, and you actually ended with 1,169, which is a difference of 1,123 officers. So now when you look at it again in 2024, when you budgeted 1,350 and we're ending with 1,142, if you look at the last 3-year trend, it's like we're losing more and more officers, but we're saying we're adding more police officers in the academy. My question to the chair is, when are we going to get to 1,250 officers, and how can you see that happening based off this trend?
Through the chair, Councilman Starr, There's been a trend over the last several years, as you articulated there, with officers retiring, resigning, and then us here in the city of Cleveland trying to make it attractive enough to bring in individuals that obviously want to get into public service. Part of that process was to increase the salaries and make it more attractive, which is, we did that again through the RISE initiative and the approval of council, again, to make the job attractive. There again, there was a paradigm, I said before, a paradigm shift relative to public service, and more particular police profession across the United States, where we just did not have individuals that were interested in becoming police officers. When I became a police officer back in 1989, I know that's a long time ago, and Council Chair Polenzic's mentioned it several times. I sat over in Public Hall with approximately 45 to 5,000 individuals that wanted to become police officers in 1989. Or actually, it was a year before that. We don't see those type of numbers now, again, for various reasons. Even when we have our expedited hiring events, which is for 3 days, we have upwards of 400 people. A significant difference. So it's a matter of incentivizing individuals to become police officers. And it's just not about the dollars. It's important because you have to be able to take care of yourself and the benefits. Again, you have to have folks that are service-minded, which is what we're looking for, that's going to provide service to our community, good service to our community. So again, it's incentivizing that, finding the right individuals that want to serve our communities and so forth. And I believe that's what we're doing. We want to make sure there's another paradigm shift, that people want to get back into public service and also into just police in general. And again, there are various reasons. Again, I won't get into the table why individuals don't want to be police officers. And part of that, too, and I was police officer for many years, part of that, in my opinion, and maybe I shouldn't say it here at the table, but I will, is the vilification of police officers. I think that's part of it. I'm not saying everyone. I'm not making a broad statement. But I think part of that was the, the vilification of police officers. When you really try to take emotions out of it as much as you can, and you take overall the encounters that police officers have with, and I'm making a point here, I'm not going off on a tangent.
Right.
When you think about the overall encounters that police officers in the United States of America have with the public, it's millions of encounters that police officers throughout the United States have with our general public. And in generalities, I like to have exact figures, but I'm trying to make a point here. Is very few instances of uses of force, and then the uses of deadly force are even fewer. When you translate that to the Division of Police in particular, our numbers are extremely low relative to our uses of force, and then our uses of force are minor, in particular when you have maybe a pistol point at someone. That's the vast majority of our use of forces here in the city of Cleveland. But the whole point about what I'm trying to say is that we're trying to make it more attractive for individuals to want to come into the service of the city of Cleveland through the Division of Police. Part of that is making it a competitive wage, great benefits, which I believe we have. And I think you'll see the general increase of individuals that want to become police officers. Again, I don't think that paradigm shift happened, but we see a great difference, increase in appreciation now for individuals, again, through our hiring event, expedited hiring event, where you know through that process at a specific date you're going to be going to the academy rather than waiting 18 months to find out. Now you know within 3 months whether or not you're going to be getting into a police academy. So that makes a huge difference in incentivizing individuals to be police officers. But I understand your question. I understand your point. We're doing our very best, and I believe the Division of Police is doing their very best to attract individuals to become police officers here in the city of Cleveland.
Thank you, Safety Director. But to that point that you bring up, the culture, the environment, the incentives, to encourage people to become police officers in the Division of Police for Cleveland is something that needs work. And what I mean by that is, one, when I see commanders leaving, when they only have a couple more years before they can get all of their benefits and retiring, that's alarming to me. no matter what it is. If I got 3 years left to get all of my pension and my retirement benefits and I retire early, there's something that you have to look at as far as the culture, whether it's in administration or not in the division of police. So attracting others to want to come, when you're seeing the commanders leave and retire, from the best division of police, which is the 3rd District, Commander Tucker, I was shocked to hear that he retired. That is alarming. And now I'm hearing that he got another job. So at the end of the day, we need to do better because we know better. But what I do look at is, if you look at the difference of overtime, when we decided to go to this 12-hour shift, I remember the administration and everybody came to this table and mentioned that this is going to cut the cost down of overtime. Between 2019 and 2021, we stayed close to budgeted within those 3 years of overtime. But then since this administration had got in, we have blown through and doubled our overtime each and every year. So I'm kind of finding it hard to believe some of the things that is being said to us because the data and the number is showing us otherwise versus what we was told during those different times. You can't say, hey, we're going to go to 12-hour shift and we're going to continue to lose more officers and we're going to be able to cut down the overtime. That's just basic math, and that math is not making sense. So my question is, what are we actually doing in place, and how are we saying this 12-hour shift is actually working when I've had conversations offline with officers when some of them are like, we do not want the 12-hour shift. So I don't know who we assessed or came up with the idea to do 12-hour shifts, but 12-hour shifts can cause you to be cranky, and it can have you doing too much, and now you're not able to get that many officers. So if I'm someone that's trying to transfer in, and you telling me I got to work a 12-hour shift, I think I might stay where I want to be at, because 12 hours is a long time frame. And what my question is to that point would be, what are we actually doing, and what are we actually planning to do as far as budgeting for police overtime when we actually ain't even hiring officers? We continue to lose officers. Okay. What is our actual plan to be able to cut down the overtime as well as figuring it out for this entire year through the chair?
Okay, who can respond to that?
Yeah, so through the chair to the councilman, obviously the priority is filling these roles. I think that's the priority of the administration, these vacancies that we have, continuing to hold events. And, financially, we gave the police officers a 14% raise, trying to make pay more, competitive with, other cities out there. So we're doing on the finance side whatever we can do to get these police officers in the roles. I think that is the most important thing, is getting us more police officers. But I think Director Drummond has outlined the challenges with that. It's not an easy job, and you have to have that mindset of public service. But I think that needs to be our goal, and I think that's the solution to getting rid of this overtime problem. But I'll let Director Drummond add.
Director, briefly, and then we're going to move on, Councilman.
To the chair, finance director is correct. We're doing all we can from a financial perspective to get officers or candidates into the police academy so we can fill our roles and hopefully come to our full budgeted amount, which is $13.50. And the 12-hour shift to the chair through Councilman Starr is something that's a shift that not just here in the city of Cleveland, but if you go to just about all of our neighboring suburbs and major cities, they're adjusting and moving to 12-hour shifts. And of course, they have various studies about the effects of 12-hour shifts. Yeah, 12-hour shifts, 12 hours is a long time to work. There's no question about it. There's no question about it. But I can tell you from my conversations with some officers, and I know that you said you had conversations with officers as well, my conversations have been really positive. The officers are getting much more time off. What I've seen is that officers really, especially our younger officers, they really want time off with their families. That's extremely important to them. So the 12-hour shift is an incentive for them because they get additional weekends off. So the vast majority of the individuals I talk to want the 12-hour shift. And I can tell you, and some people may disagree, that if you were to stop the 12-hour shifts, if we said tomorrow, no more 12-hour shifts, I think you will have a major issues with the vast majority of patrol officers who are on the 12-hour shifts because they like so many days off. In fact, I was in a meeting with one of our lieutenants, and I was shocked to hear him say that he's off so much, he wish he wasn't off so much because he doesn't have the opportunity to spend as much time with his officers. And to be honest with you, I was very shocked when he said that, again, from my conversations with various officers, the 12-hour shift is something that they like because it gives them more time off with their families. As far as 12-hour shifts and the commitment or indication that that would reduce the amount of overtime, that's one of the goals. Not to saying it's going to eliminate it. We know that's not a possibility, which it could. But what we found was when we transitioned to the 12-hour, Division of Police transitioned to the 12-hour shifts, that allowed the Division of Police and the leadership to reduce the amount of mandated overtime for our officers. Again, at that particular time, before we transitioned to the 12-hour shifts, we were mandating individuals to work our overtime, and that affected obviously their personal lives and so forth. Transitioning over to 12-hour shifts, we don't have as many mandates. Those numbers are extremely low, so we have a much more happy workforce because of that, because they have more time off. Now, we also have numerous amount of special events throughout the city of Cleveland that has to be protected, especially in the climate that we're in. So we want to make sure in the police division, make sure that we have sufficient amount of officers assigned to those special events without taking away from the services of our police districts. So that's part of the overtime associated with that, with our special events, and making sure that they're secure with sufficient amount of officers.
Thank you, Director. Councilman, your time.
Yes, so my point is, thank you, Director, for that outline. My question is, it's been since 2021 since we had over 1,350 officers. It's been 4 years. We haven't had over 1,350 officers. It's been 4 years since we have that number. Everything that we're not filling these voids, no matter how many events we have, hiring events or outreach, we're just not getting that many officers in, and we're losing more officers than we are actually bringing in and year out. So I am not in support of budgeting for 1,350 officers. I think it will be more realistic to see if this department can actually achieve a goal of getting to 1,250 officers. And then after they could get to that, then we could talk about adding additional officers. There's nothing in the works that are showing that we're going to ever get to that number as of today. So
Thank you, Councilman.
Yep.
Thank you. Councilman Jones. And I would ask everyone, please be mindful of the time. Thank you, Councilman Jones. No, I know you were in time. Okay, go ahead. I just pushed it, so get going.
So, Mr. Chairman, it's, when we talk about the subject matter of recruitment, it's a serious piece, and we all know it so well here. The last time we've had a great amount of police officers sworn in as new hires was in 2018. And we had 236 police officers that was sworn in hires. And that number dropped to 136 the following year. The difference, though, Mr. Chairman, to the director, is the sworn departures have been consistent. And when we look at starting from 2020, 87 sworn officers in, 2021, 86 officers sworn in, 2022, 33 officers hired, 2023, 22 officers hired, and now in 2024, I think it's been the largest class of 134 hires since 2019. And so when we look at the departures, though, we've had 108 in 2018, 2019, 114, 2020, 154, 2021, 186, 2022, 200 departures, and we only hired 33 people. So we're not keeping up, Mr. Chairman, with the police officers who are departing the city of Cleveland. And when we look at this, it reminds me of the previous director who sat here and said, hey, if we're able to get Shaw High School we can open it up as a training facility. And we sat here.
You mean
and-
South High.
South High, thank you. Thank you for correcting me, Mr. Chairman. We will be able to begin the proposition of recruitment, and then there was a commitment made by your predecessor to really up the recruitment in the city of Cleveland. And he was supposed to have hired on an entire group, a firm, in addition to bringing on new police officers for recruitment. But we continue to see that number go down, and for some of the reasons you've stated earlier in your testimony, Mr. Chairman, to the safety director. So my question, Mr. Chairman, to the safety director, what is it that we can do to really get this number where it needs to be? Because there's other police stations and departments in Ohio that seem to be doing really well in their recruitment. And what is and where are we with this group that was supposed to come in and to assist us? Did that ever happen? Mr. Chairman, to the safety director.
Director Drummond?
Through the chair to Councilman Jones, I believe you're referring to Little Jacket, the firm. The firm did come in. They did provide a product for
The little who?
Little Jack.
Little Jacket.
It's called
a
the
firm.
Little Jacket?
Yes, sir.
Can we get a big jacket so we get more people in here? Mr.
Director.
Chairman?
Through the chair to Councilman Jones, Little Jacket did come in. They did provide a product for us. The product is with the Division of Police. The Division of Police is recruitment unit, I believe, is doing a really good job working with human resources, HR, as well as civil service to put on these expedited hiring events, which have been successful. Through the expedited hiring events, we're getting about 134 cadets, which is the most since 2019.
Yes.
So it is working. We are getting more individuals to take the test. We're getting more individuals to pass, and also to get through the entire process. So we get academy classes and get individuals in the classes, get them trained properly, and out onto the streets in the city of Cleveland.
Thank you, Director.
So,
Councilman?
So, Mr. Chairman, the eligible, so what number are we looking at shooting for, just to make sure I'm clear? I know some numbers were tossed out earlier, but how many police officers are we looking to hire in this year? And then in terms of eligibility, how many police officers are eligible to retire this year?
Director?
We're hoping, to the chair through Councilman Jones, we're budgeted for 180. We are hopeful to get 3 academy classes in this year with a minimum of 50 per, so that's 150, that's a minimum. Our intention and our goal through the Division of Police to get 180 recruits into the academy this year. That's our goal and that's our intent. I will have to find the numbers relative to what's what I believe anticipated or eligible for retirement this year. I don't have those numbers in front of me, but I can get that information for you, unless you have it in front of you as well, and I can talk through that as well.
It's a little over 200 officers.
224, is that right?
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, to the...
I know it's a little over 200.
To the, as of, through the chair to Councilman Jones, as you already have numbers.
Yes, I did.
Yes, yes, eligible to retire this year of 2025. So roughly 250 officers who are eligible to retire. But through past history, we generally don't have officers retire at their 25th year. Some do. Most don't. We have a program through OPNF where officers can go into a program called DROP, which is the deferred retirement option, and a vast majority of officers take advantage of that. It's a minimum they have to be eligible, at least 25 years of age, and I believe 52 years old, then they're eligible for this particular benefit. It's a benefit, and you have to stay a minimum of 5 years and a maximum of 8 years. So a good percentage of our officers take advantage of that. Again, not all, but some. So again, historically, all the ones eligible for retirement, most don't retire at that 25th year mark.
Councilman?
And then, Mr. Chairman, then the question, what is the age of our police department? I mean, what's the average age of our people now? Because,
Do we know what that-
250 people eligible to retire is
Do we
quite
know
a
what that
bit.
is? The average age?
I don't have that information,
Okay.
to the chair.
We'll make that
We
request.
can get that
We'll get
information
that.
to you.
Okay.
And-
Councilman?
And Mr. Chairman, can you tell me, what is working in recruitment, or maybe what is not working? Because I have some ideas, but I'm not sure how you guys are, how you're doing what you're doing in terms of recruitment. Because a lot of times when I'm out there in the public, I'm meeting a lot of people, and I'm sending them to the commanders. I'm sending them to be recruited as police officers in the city of Cleveland. So tell me, and it seems to be, not that I'm a recruiter or anything, but I've sent dozens of people who were interested in getting hired in the police department. How do you guys do your recruitment? What's your
If you could, but again, I want to just caution everybody, because I want to try to focus as much as we can on the budget, the actual dollar amounts, as what does this equate to? So I'm going to ask you to be brief in your explanation, because these are all issues.
Well, Mr. Chairman, it is concerning the performance of the division of the police department.
Councilman?
We are looking at
Yeah.
the numbers here.
Yeah.
And you've sat here as the chairman, and this has been a big issue for you
Yes.
as well. So it is a matter of us being able to fill these seats and then deal with this overtime, Mr. Chairman,
That's right.
respective of what the budget is asking for. So
Okay.
the budget is not just the numbers, but it's also the performance of the department, and why we should be sitting here and then approving this budget so that these departments are efficient and effective.
Thank
And if we don't ask these questions at this time, which is critical of the budget, why are we here?
Okay.
And so that's the
Director?
reason why I'm asking, Mr. Chairman, to the safety director, recruitment is important. Our citizens' safety
go
should
ahead.
be #1 priority for all those sitting here at this table.
Go ahead, Director.
Through the chair, Councilman Jones, recruiting is important. It's not just recruiting through the Division of Police or Department of Public Safety. It's just about everybody around this table. To your point, you said that you've sent people to Division of Police or to the commanders and so forth. I think it's important that we all recruit. We see individuals that we believe could be really good police officers, send them to the Division of Police Recruitment Unit. We'll put them through the paces and make sure that they're eligible to become police officers. And again, it's a combination. I believe, that advertisement is great. There's no question about it. Through media, social media platforms, and television and advertisement and so forth. But I think even more important are the individuals around this table, the council members, myself, and I think more importantly, the police officers that are currently employed when they're out and about in the community and are stopping at stores and homes and so forth and seeing individuals, and just explain to them the importance of becoming a police officer, that they can take care of themselves in the community. I think that's what really entices individuals to become police officers.
Thank you, Director. Councilman?
Page 225, when it comes to, we talked a little bit about this in terms of overtime. There's the 14 million, and I know you're cutting it appears to be a little bit in half in terms of the overtime. And we talked a little bit about the proposition of having the 12-hour shift. How do you reconcile this 14 million? If you didn't have any more overtime that would be transferred over, how do you reconcile putting this number here, given the fact that we have not been able to stay to that number in previous years? And why will we do that?
Director of Finance?
Yeah, so through the chair to the councilman, as discussed earlier, this is the benchmark. We believe that we can get more recruits in the door this year, and this should be our goal, is to have the overtime limited to 14 million.
So if we get to what number are we looking at to
180.
reconcile?
180.
Is it 180?
Yes.
So we're confident we will have 180, and having those 180 police officers are you saying that this would reduce this to that 14 million?
Through the chair to the councilman, that's the idea and the goal is to get those officers in the door, which would lower overtime costs. The 12-hour shift did mitigate some of those costs, although they're not where we want them to be. But we do believe if we get more officers in the door, that will considerably lower our overtime costs. And as Director Drummond mentioned earlier, important for his people to spend time with their families and be able to increase that as well through the hiring of those police officers. But there's obvious challenges that we've already discussed here today with that. But we'll keep doing whatever we can to get more officers in the door.
And the reason why I asked that question, Mr. Chairman, because last year we estimated it at $12,500,000. So, and we exceeded that by 26 million in 2024. So, it would be nice, Mr. Chairman, if you did have your numbers a little bit higher here, you know, so that we know a good idea of what you estimate the overtime is going to be, because based on your trends, it's going to be anywhere between 20 to 24 million.
Yeah, so through the chair to the councilman, we're hoping to break that trend, obviously. I definitely recognize the concerns and the numbers and the probability that we will be over that 14 million. I think the concern with raising that amount is it then incentivizes every year a higher level of overtime. And what we're trying to do through the budget process is limit that as much as we can and we feel that 14 million is a stability point that we're hoping to reach. So that's why that number is in there.
I see. And then on 225 is another category for overtime. What's that overtime for 1.7 million?
Through the chair to the councilman, that's non-uniform overtime.
Is who?
Non-uniform overtime?
Explain, Mr. Chairman, to the chief, CFO.
Civilian.
Yeah, through the chair to the council members, civilians.
Our civilians' overtime is 1.7 million. Do we have a problem with recruiting them too? Mr. Chairman, to the director?
Director?
Through the chair, the councilman, no, we don't. We do our division of police, that is, they're during their, it's very difficult to just say we, because I've been there for so long. So,
Well, who are
yeah.
they, Mr.
So
Chairman,
the
to the
Department of Division of Police, there are various civilians that include our dispatchers, that includes our senior data conversion operators, and so forth. There's the ones that enter reports into the system. They operate our records room, warrant checks, and so forth. Those are, and other civilians. Those are a few that I just mentioned. That overtime is related to those individuals.
So why would it be so much overtime if we are fully staffed?
Well, I didn't say we're fully staffed. We want to make sure that we staff up as much as we can, but there are times that overtime is required to make sure that they're fulfilling their duties and responsibility.
Okay.
Yep.
So how many?
Wrap it up, Councilman.
How much time do I have on your clock?
You're done. But keep. Okay.
Well, listen. You know, hey, listen.
Okay.
The issue here is knowing who that is. Can you get that information for those departments that represent that 1.7 million that you have budgeted for the police department?
Thank you.
Through the chair, the council member, they had several vacancies in dispatch during the year.
Now, is it police dispatch we're talking about?
To the chair, that's correct.
Okay.
Police dispatch.
All right.
Thank you.
Because we have to have dispatchers on through the chair, the council person. Those
Thank
people
you.
were held over. That's what's caused the
And
overtime.
the request, and you heard the request, please put those together for us. The councilman requested. Okay, I have Councilman, just make everybody aware, we have Councilman Harsh, Slife, Councilman Griffin, Casey, and Conwell as of right now. Councilman Harsh.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Okay, lightning round. Here we go. Page 225, staying on the salaries. So in 2023, our actual uniform personnel was 93 million. In 2024, it was 102. I'm rounding numbers. Through the chair to the chief or to the director, would I be correct in believing that's mostly because of pay raises, that 10% increase?
14%.
Yeah, through the chair to the council member, yes.
Right.
We had 14% raises.
Okay,
So-
and then through the chair, so the 114 million budgeted for 2025, does that reflect the salary if the 180 police trainees come on, or is that what we're expecting for more raises to set in this year? More increases in salary?
Through the chair, that's fully staffed at 1350.
That's if we hit the 1350, that's where the 114. So that would include, though, the 180 trainees. Are they part of the 1350 through the chair? The 180 trainees on page 229?
Through the chair, they are not included in the headcount number.
Okay, for the 2025 budget, they're not part of that 114 million. They're on a trainee budget, right? Okay, so through the chair, the reason I'm asking, I'm trying to figure out where we get to the 1,000.
Councilman,
Through the chair, the councilperson, correct, yes.
Okay.
Okay.
So I'm trying to figure out where the 1,350 are in here. So on page 229, I'm looking at the protective services, which is most of our patrol officers, 1, 2, 3, 4, blah, blah, blah. But that's 1,065. I'm subtracting the 180 trainees because they're not actually out there on the street. That leaves us 885. I'm adding the 303 on page 228 from administrators and officials, because I know that lieutenants are out there and sergeants are out there and commanders are out there. They're actually in the neighborhood. So I'm adding those 303 to 885. I'm coming up with 1,188. So where are the 170 that I'm missing? Who are we counting into this 1,350? How do we get there?
who can answer that?
And I believe these are not supposed to be radio call people. These aren't the clerks and the secretaries. These are 1,350 officers patrolling streets, involved in the neighborhoods.
They are in there.
I mean, I see there's 147 technicians, but I don't know, do we count them towards the 1,350? Because these folks are doing fingerprints or data conversion.
What was that difference again?
Who can answer that question?
Through the chair to the council person, I think if you, I'm trying to add this up quickly, but if you look at the budget for 2025 and you look under the administrative officials and you
Look
add
under
up
administrative where?
officials, the very first category where you have sergeants, lieutenants.
Sure, 303.
Deputy, right, and then you look at what's budgeted under protective services.
Yeah, but that includes 180 trainees who aren't actually out there. So you subtract 180 from protective services.
Through the
That-
chair, the 180 is not in the 1,065.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, so that 1,065 at the bottom does not include the 180. So if I add up patrol officer 1, 2, 3, 4, police safety aide, and traffic controller, that gets to 1,065.
There's through the chair of the council person, we did asterisk, but the asterisks on the explanations on the.
Oh,
at
I see
very
the
end,
asterisk.
On the next page. Unfortunately, it's not
Okay,
on the
so
bottom of this page.
I'm doing subtraction that shouldn't exist.
Look for the asterisks.
Okay.
On the very next
Okay.
page, sorry.
No, that's
would've
great.
known,
That satisfies my question. Next question. Is Shot Spotter included in the Division of Police or the Safety Department budget? Through the chair to,
Through the chair, it is not included in this budget.
just checking. Okay.
We used ARPA funds for the shot
Right,
spot.
that's right, and we did not make that a permanent draw on the general fund yet.
And that will come up this year,
Oh,
shot
good,
spotter.
because I'm not a fan.
To the chair, that's actually
wait.
for 2026.
Wait a minute.
I don't need to derail my own question. It's
Okay, go ahead.
The reason I bring it up, though, is because I believe that policing is mostly dealing with human problems, human situations, and the best response to human problems are human people that can deal with humans, and I think that humans are better than technology when it comes to human problems. I want to take a moment. I wish Chief Todd was here. We lost Commander Stocco last year from 2nd District. He was outstanding, but in his place, Commander Maffa Judd has been a ray of sunshine. This man is an incredible leader. His charisma, I wish I had a percentage of it. He is doing a fantastic job over there. He lives in the neighborhood. He's from the neighborhood. Same with Captain Ham. Same with Sergeant Thomas. Same with Sergeant Woyma. These are officers from our neighborhood who grew up here and understand our community, and it shows in the work that they do. And I have had nothing but an incredible experience working with Commander Maffa Judd and his team in dealing with neighborhood issues. And I have to say, the other day I was in the neighborhood and I found a guy pulling on doors and going through trash cans. And I rolled up to him and I said, "Hey man, are you all right?" And he got really teary and said he needed to be baptized. So I told him, "Okay, let's meet me down at the corner store." And I called the non-emergency number and I asked for a crisis response team. And I got to the corner store and I bought this guy a Danish, and I'm talking to him, and sure enough, he had fallen out of rehab. He had been, using meth the day before, hadn't slept, brains without sleep get goofy, and this guy was having an episode. And I sat there hoping and praying that somebody was going to show up quickly. And on a non-emergency call, a car rolled up 10 minutes later, and these officers were fantastic. They were nice to the guy, they were professional, but they understood that the situation needed handled. And they did an incredible job. And I want to thank the 2nd District Police for having that wherewithal, for responding to a non-emergency call so timely. And this is the type of work that our police engage in every single day. The greatest good you can do is to prevent something bad from happening, but you'll never get credit for it. You will never get credit for the problem you stopped, right, from the problem you prevented. And our officers do that every single day. And they ought to be thanked for that work more often. And this is really where I see the police department going. I see the police department in Cleveland turning into this preventative force that gets out there and helps people. And to that end, this 1,350 is really important. This guy needed people. He didn't need technology. He needed people. He needed somebody to walk him through how he's going to deal with the fact that he got back on drugs again. And he told me he needed baptized in his parole officer. That's literally what he told me. So people need to handle these situations. And I really think it's very urgent that we get to that 1,350, because these folks are in our neighborhoods and we still need to do traffic enforcement. It's still the #1 call I get from my neighbors. They want speed bumps, or they want officers. They want something to slow down traffic. And the speed bumps cause the people on the streets next to them to call more often. Everybody on 57th is now complaining there's speed bumps on 58, so they're all coming down 57th. Everybody on Portman is complaining that there's speed bumps on Oak Park, so everybody's coming down Portman, right? The speed bumps don't solve the problem so much as officers doing traffic enforcement, because when you get that $180 ticket, you might think twice the next time you decide to speed, because it's individual behavior that we're trying to deal with. And I think individuals are the best way to deal with individual behavior. So that's my stump speech. That's all I had. So thank you, Chairman. I give back the rest of my time.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Slife.
Thank you. On page 227, could you clarify the difference between, under maintenance, the difference between maintenance contracts and maintenance building?
So through the chair to the council member, the maintenance building is specific to the building. Heating, air conditioning, electrical repairs, water mitigation, and landscaping, while the other figure does not include those.
Oh, so is maintenance contracts, in other words, through the chair, is it that it could be pertaining to a building, but it could also be, go ahead, it looked like something from, go ahead, Mr. Gentile.
Through the chair of the councilperson, mostly under maintenance contracts is usually software or equipment. Once in a while, some division may put building in there, but we encourage people to put building under a building. But actually maintenance contracts is usually technology, equipment, and those type of things.
Okay, thank you for that. Under maintenance contracts, last year we budgeted $1.8 million, and the unaudited is nearly $5 million. And then the budget for this year is nearly $4 million. Can you explain what the increase in that line item was last year?
Yep, through the chair, that was an increase in the Axon maintenance for the body cameras. They were behind on some payments. We did a supplemental in 2024. $6 million went to police for these payments. So that's why you see that big spike in 24.
Okay, thank you. And then the $76,000 for maintenance building, I would assume that excludes the Justice Center, but is that just generalized maintenance dollars for the 5 districts, and are there any other buildings?
Through the chair, that's correct. Just general maintenance on the districts.
Okay, have you guys been to the districts?
Who can answer that?
Chair.
Sorry, don't have to answer that. That was a sarcastic question.
Yeah.
Look, I think the members of the division should be commended, because I know at the first, and I'm sure it's at other places, that they are putting their own time, energy, and money into building upkeep, which is commendable, but also I think frustrating, because that we are not paying them to maintain our capital. I don't believe $76,000 is enough for maintenance for one of the districts, let alone for 5 of them.
You're right.
If you care to comment, but I think it's
Who would care to comment on that wonderful question? In light of the condition of the 4 police districts.
I mean, through the chair to the councilman, if you look at the needs over the last few years, it's been 56 and 68,000. If there were needs above 76,000, we would, entertain those and see what we could do.
okay. If anyone listening wants to email their council member of money that they've put into their police districts, we'll be happy to accept that information. But I worry that that is not an accurate number because of work that is happening unbeknownst to City Hall. And again, I think it's very commendable that people care for their workplace, and the third district aside, although the third district, has, I'm sure, its unique challenges too. The other buildings are very clearly dated. They require a lot of upkeep, and you got people doing the best they can with what they have. But I don't think it's the ideal structure in the year 2025 for any of our officers. So.
Through the chair, Councilman Slife, you're bringing up a really good point. The buildings are dated except for the third district, which is our newest facility, police headquarters for the third district. There are other dollars that's dedicated to maintenance of through capital dollars, that is, for major repairs, roofs, garage doors, things of that nature, and so air conditioning units, boilers, and so forth. So there are dollars through the Department of Public Safety working with MOCAP that we expend towards some of those major capital improvements.
Okay. To the council president, are we expecting to have some sort of budgetary hearings for the capital budget this year?
Yes.
Mr. President?
Yes.
Just because aside from the building's ages, I do think if we are outwardly wanting to convey that we are a community-oriented police department, I don't think that our buildings convey that. And years ago I had to go to the second district to look at a lineup, and you're in a crowded room full of people. Like it's not meeting our needs today. So I think that there should be a capital priority towards the districts, just like for the headquarters. I know that comes at a very high price, but I do think it's important. Pivoting away, I want us to make sure that we understand this gamesmanship between overtime and uniformed pay for the budget. And I want us to understand it because there are people who claim to be our friends in Columbus who seem to think that we have money sitting aside because of our being below headcount. So to me, looking at the budget, and I just want to make sure I understand how this works and kind of what our theoretical options would be. It seems like the magic number is $12.5 million from last year's budget. So we budgeted for $12.5 million for overtime, and I'm just using round numbers, but it seems like we basically doubled that. So my interpretation of that is that and then if you look at the uniformed overtime, what we budgeted versus what the unaudited amount is, it is essentially $12.5 million under what we had budgeted for. So essentially, we anticipated $12.5 million of, let's just call, expected overtime. The Guardians are in the playoffs. There's some event downtown. Like, these are just situations where we know we're going to need more officers. And then maybe we had $12.5 million of overtime because of our lower headcount that we are now having to make up in order to maintain routine patrols, all of the day-to-day operations, the anticipated workflow of the Division of Police. Is that a fair way to characterize that through the chair to the director?
Yeah, through the chair to the councilman, that's correct.
Okay. And I bring it up because it seems that in theory, we could lower the anticipated salaries and benefits, knowing that we are short on staff, but that is effectively a headcount reduction, which I oppose.
Yeah, you're right.
Or we could double the overtime budget, knowing that we will, in the end, probably maybe double it, but would do it maintaining the current headcount, would essentially be taking, let's call it still $12.5 million, and parking it in the budget when it's not needed because we can use that same money from unspent wages and headcount. That's essentially the gamesmanship, right?
So through the
I'm
chair,
getting nods, and I know that this is like everyone's wheels are turning in the morning.
so through the chair to the councilman, I think that's reasonable, that thought process. I wouldn't call it gamesmanship. It's just how we're budgeting. And again, we're budgeting in a way where we want to fill those roles. We want a fully staffed police department, which will bring down the overtime costs. And so that's why the numbers are the way they are in this budget, because that's what we aspire to. We believe we can fill those roles, and we'll work as much as we can with the police department to make that happen.
Sure. So when I look at the transfer ordinance through the chair to the administration from last year, and I don't have it right up here, but I think we ended up transferring maybe $1.9 million into personnel. So we did not transfer $12 million into personnel. We transferred 1.9 into personnel. So the overwhelming majority of our overtime needs are made up for by unfilled positions. I'm not saying that this is an ideal scenario, but what I am trying to make sure we all understand collectively is that we do not have money sitting around, as some at the state of Ohio seem to suggest, that we can simply reallocate to other stuff. We are using that money, and it would probably, in my opinion, be not all that fiscally responsible to overinflate our overtime budget, because that would essentially be parking money in public safety that could be spent elsewhere. So I wanted, that's what we're trying to rectify through this budget process, correct?
Yeah, through the chair to the councilman, it's all a balancing act. We're balancing our aspirations, what we think we can do realistically. And admittedly, the numbers have been high for overtime the last few years, and they probably will be above the 14 million we expect. But we also don't want to set a precedent and incentivize a level of overtime that's double what we have now. We want to make sure that we're consistent in our budgeting process and setting goals that we believe are realistic and that we'll reach. And that's all built into this budget.
Thank you.
A quick point, and then I have one more question.
Through the chair to
What's
the
the point?
finance director, can you talk about, I always hear about incentivizing overtime. Who sets the overtime?
Okay.
How do people get to
Okay,
get
Who
overtime?
wants to explain that briefly?
I know this question was, I'm sorry, to the
About
chair.
overtime.
Yeah, through the chair to council.
No. It was to the fine.
Okay,
both of
okay.
you all.
Okay,
I mean,
go
it's both of you all, but again, I keep continue. We don't want to incentivize overtime, so I'm taking a step back. Who gives overtime?
Okay, thank
How
you.
do people get overtime? And the clarification: Can a one of our law enforcement partners, can they just give themselves overtime?
Director?
Through the chair, no, they can't. That's
Okay.
it's a process for approving overtime.
Exactly. That's what I kind of thought it was, a place that there's a system in place for that. So when I continue to hear the commentary that we don't want to incentivize overtime, can you give me a clarification on what does that mean? How is that if we actually budgeted according to the budget?
Briefly?
Yeah, so through the chair to the councilwoman, if we set overtime expectations at 26 million, which is around what they've been the last few years, then that tends to carry over from budget to budget. Our realistic goal, we believe that we can get down to $14 million in overtime if we fill these positions. So that is how we budgeted for what we expect and what we hope for this year.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Slate, you still have the
And
floor.
I think I have kind of like the inverse of that question, which is essentially the similarity between the unspent money in salaries and wages and the overtime that is eventually spent through a budgetary transfer, the how comparable they are makes me question if there are situations where overtime is being denied because we are trying to maintain ourselves within that limit. Does that make sense?
Through the chair,
Because I think when we talk about traffic, when we talk about other things, are there situations where ideally we want there to be more traffic, but is the division of police saying, we agree in a perfect world, we'd have more traffic out, but if we approve that overtime, then we are going to exceed this delta between salary budgeted and salary actual? And are we restricting police services to prevent there being a larger budgetary transfer? In other words, should there be a deeper conversation about what the actual day-to-day departmental needs are, and should that overtime number be larger because we do not want to undercut our own ability to provide services, while of course maintaining a balance if we can't burn people out. So I guess, is it that it's so coincidental, or is it coincidental by design?
Well, just one of our pre-budget requests, we haven't received it. We asked for a breakdown of overtime by unit and district. So we'll get a better indication once we get that, Director.
Through the chair to Councilman Slife, a really good question that you're asking, but I can tell you unequivocally that through the Division of Police that overtime is given out judiciously. There are general orders general police orders relative to the expenditure of overtime, that the absolute minimum, and has to be all justified and approved through a process, as we talked about before. However, I can tell you that the district commanders, the command staff, will utilize overtime to accomplish the mission and the task. That much I can tell you. If that it requires an additional detail relative to traffic, I can tell you that the commanders will utilize overtime. They do it judiciously, and because they're very conscientious about overtime. However, the mission is to provide services to our residents. Part of that is putting officers out on a traffic detail. They will, working in conjunction with our traffic unit downtown, which has various grants to put officers out on overtime, which includes not only the officers assigned to the downtown Bureau of Traffic, but also to the district traffic as well. So I can tell you that they utilize overtime to accomplish our mission.
Okay, I'll end it just by, if that request, Councilman Polensek, doesn't include kind of overtime denials, I don't know if that information would be available. I think that'd be interesting to see. I will just couch it as, I am budgetarily happy, yet sort of operationally suspicious that we are able to meet our overtime needs fully within the above-the-line portion of the budget. Budgetarily happy, operationally suspicious. So, thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. You kept your time. Thank you. Council President.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And just want to put something in context real quick. Had our policy team and folks look up something. Columbus has, in the 2025 budget, 1,937 officers, and their staffing as of May 2024, 1,859 officers, 79 vacancies for a 4% vacancy rate. So it can be done. I don't know how, but it can be done. How we can actually recruit, retain, and keep officers. Columbus is a comparable city. Just want to make sure that we, recognize that it can be done.
Through the chair, Council President Griffin, I appreciate that the comparison. I consider Columbus to be an outliner. I really do. I think because of their budgets down there and the finances that they have, their patrol officers, I believe after 3 years, are anywhere between $106,000 and $110,000 per year, and that's without overtime. So they pay their officers based on their budget. They can afford it, obviously. So they're able to pay their officers quite a bit of money down there in Columbus. But even still, they're still a little short, and they've done well over the last couple of years, and I believe that's because of their contracts and the amount of money that they're paying their particular officers.
I won't dwell on that. I just want to say that there are other ways that we need to look at how we're doing that. I think the recruiting efforts are great. Who is handling the recruitment now, and do we have anything in the budget that reflects an intensive or direct recruitment strategy like Little Jacket was? I understand that you guys did not want to use them. I think that was about a $200,000 contract or so. Who's doing it now, and are we saving those costs?
Director.
Through the chair, Council President Griffin, the duties of recruitment for the Division of Police falls under the Division of Police. They have a recruitment unit, Deputy Chief Faye is in the back there. That falls under him and Commander Magooth, who is currently at the FBI Academy, National Academy training and so forth. And Lieutenant Hernandez is now running that particular unit. They're doing a great job. They're detectives that are assigned there. They're working with various agencies and groups to advertise recruitment. So I believe that they're doing a really good job. As far as the agency that you mentioned, Little Jacket, we did not spend $250,000.
How much did we spend?
We spent just, I believe, just under $50,000 for the product that they produced. The Division of Police has that product, and again, based on what we're doing now, the recruitment unit, they're doing a really great job in getting individuals to apply for to become police officers, working in conjunction with, again, HR as well as civil service to have these expedited events, which I believe are paying dividends because we had 134 individuals to enter into the academy. So I believe that it's working. Not believe it is working. We have more officers, or more people, or more candidates who are willing to become police officers and really want to really provide a service to our residents.
Thank you. Thank you through the chair. Just want to make sure that I follow up on that. So then where would that have been? So is that an increase in training staff or recruitment, or is that just basically redeploying some of your staff that you already have in place?
To the chair, it's a great question. That is, through the chair, through Councilman Griffin, that's correct. We have officers that's already assigned to personnel and the recruitment unit. There was one particular officer that was assigned in the Department of Public Safety admin that was moved back over to the Division of Police. The recruitment efforts and the budget associated is all confined within the Division of Police.
Okay, thank you. Just a couple of other questions. Medical services is at about 3,000, and it looks like you don't often have medical services. Could you help define medical services for me in the budget? What is that? Is that like an officer? I'm just trying to envision what that is. I don't envision that being if an officer gets injured or something. That has to be something else. What is medical services?
Whoever can explain that one?
I'm sorry, through the chair to Councilman, which
It's
line
on
item?
page 226.
Okay.
It's under contractual services. It's about the fourth line down, and it says medical services. I'm trying to understand what is that for. A small amount, just trying to understand what it's for. Because it can't be for officers' injuries or anything else like that. That would have to be somewhere else that's reflected. I'm just trying to understand what it's for.
To the chair, I believe I know what it is, but I want to make sure I'm not speaking, I want to make sure I'm speaking accurately. So I'm going to have Deputy Chief Fay, who's going to be Deputy Chief
Deputy
Fay.
And
Chief?
just as I
Yeah.
just
Yeah, just
combine
on-
both of these questions so
Sure.
we could. Reason I'm asking is because I also see medical supplies, which is down under materials and supplies. And I'm trying to understand, is that where we kind of like make sure that the officers have Narcan and other things like that? Just trying to understand what is the definition of those expenditures.
Great questions.
Whoever can
Deputy
answer.
Chief Danny Fay, who's in charge of administrative operations.
Deputy
He can answer
Chief.
those questions.
Deputy Chief.
Through the chair to the council president, medical services are when we send somebody out for an independent medical exam to make sure that they have the full functionality to be a police officer. So we pay that. That's through civil service. We pay that fee. Well, let's say, for example, a member is injured on the job, and we want to make sure that they're fully functional to be a police officer. If not, they can get disability pension. So we pay for IMEs, is what they're called, independent medical exams. Okay.
Thank you. That's the reason I asked that
And then-
question, because
then
that
to your-
seems like a small amount for that kind of a heavy lift. And I think that's good if we're within that 3,000, but that's what I kind of figured. If that's kind of very shrewd number, but it
Then
looks like we don't.
to your
spend a lot
second
of it.
question,
Sure.
medical supplies. That's going to be the tourniquets that we issue to our officers. We pay for those. Any first aid kits, the districts, for example, that's where that line item would be utilized.
And does that include through the chair Narcan?
Through the chair to councilman, no. We receive
So-
our Narcan through EMS.
So EMS provides and trains all of the officers with Narcan.
Through the chair to
Is that
councilman, that's
correct?
correct.
Is there a cross-departmental charge for those kind of trainings? Through the chair?
Who can answer?
Through the chair, I don't think so. I don't see a line item for that. I don't believe so, but I know there's a charge for the Narcan itself.
Okay.
Okay, last couple of questions. Always interesting to see where judgments, damages, and claims. It seems like it's a steady rate. Can we, through the chair, get a copy of any claims that the city might have made, just to understand for the last 2 years? Has there been an average? Is there something that we have that is really, you know, how do we justify those claims? And is there an average or anything else that we're paying on these claims? Because it looks like the number is relatively static.
Whoever can answer. Ms. Gallagher?
And is that in public safety, or is that the law department that has those claims line items? But if Ms. Gallagher, anybody can explain. Page 227. Thank you. Under claims, refunds, and maintenance.
Through the chair, that's the death benefit.
The death benefit. So any officer that dies, their life insurance is paid out of that,
Is that correct?
or the accidental death.
Through the chair, for on-duty officers that die in the line of the duty, there's $100,000 that council approved that goes to the officer's
Yes.
family. So this is where that.
That's
Okay.
it.
So we only had one officer that needed that death benefit last year, or in the past?
Yes.
Okay. So then that leads to my next question, and this is probably for the policy team, if they can look up. Do we have any other departments that have that death benefit? Because we have a couple of people in waste, and I think also public service that actually passed in the line of duty. And do we have that same line item for them, or is this contractually obligated through the union contract? How do we make sure that all of our workers, if they have this kind of incident, are taken care of?
Through the chair, this extends, I think, to any employee on duty. I know Parks had a couple in the last few years, accidents at the parks with a couple parks workers. So they were also afforded the death benefits.
So they get the same amount?
Yes.
Same thing?
It's $100,000 as a
Okay, I think I'm gonna use Charles Slife. I'm budgetarily confident, but operationally curious to see that, if I could.
Okay.
Because I really would love to see that. Last but not least.
No, wait a minute, we're going to make, I want to make sure staff has that request.
Yeah.
You have that request? Thank you.
Last but not least, and I'll leave from there, $250,000 for the police chief expense fund. Where does that go to? What is it used for? Because I know we put, I think Councilman Casey asked for money to be put for food and those kind of things. Why can't some of those items be purchased out of the police chief expense fund?
In pre-budget, we asked for an explanation of the 143.
Sure.
143. So we haven't gotten that.
If we,
Director,
we
you
need
want me
to
to
get
answer
if we
that?
could.
Director, you want me to answer that?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, through the chair of the council member, the chief's expense fund is in the city charter 135, and it's a fund established every year, $250,000, and it specifically says for the furtherance of justice. So typically, we use those monies for confidential informants, for confidential investigations, primarily our narcotics unit and our intel unit.
That's good to know. That's the reason that we're here to ask those questions.
Yep.
And at some point in time, it'd be good to know those kind of things, because that's news to me, and I've been around this for a while. I do want to just take one moment, if I could. I know that this is a budget hearing, and I know that we always try to take this opportunity to commend officers who have gone above and beyond duty. Commander for the 4th District, I know that he's sidelined right now for several reasons, but I want to just put in a statement that this guy really worked closely with the community and council members.
Yes.
And I know that everybody has to be held accountable for whatever anybody's looking into. But I do want to say, as far as on the street, this guy was very accessible and worked very well with us. So I hope that counts for something as it puts forward. I never get involved with any employee disciplinary matters, but I will say that as far as our outward facing and in the community, working with me and other council members, as well as just community members and stakeholders, Commander Ralph Valentino has done a heck of a job. So I had to say that, okay?
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, on that point,
Wait,
on that point?
Yes, on that point.
Mr. Chairman, I commend my colleague, the President of Cleveland City Council. Our community and our neighborhood is in complete agreement. We've had an outstanding commander. He has been engaged, involved, concerned, committed, and he has went above and beyond to help us in our neighborhood. I have not had a commander of that caliber or that level since 1998, when we had then Mike McGrath, who was then commander of the 4th District. So I echo the sentiments of the president, and I want him to, if it's God's speed, to have him back in our 4th District.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Casey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, to the director, when it comes to recruitment, is Greenbridge Consultants in any way, shape, or form involved in the recruiting of any type of safety forces for the city?
Through the
Director.
chair to Councilman Casey, no.
Okay, thank you. That's good. And when we talked earlier, Mr. Chairman, to the director about the ambassadors that we have gone through the program, how many ambassadors that have gone through the program have actually transitioned onto the police force?
Through the chair to Councilman Casey, none has transitioned so far to the Division of Police.
And Mr. Chairman, to the director, how long has the ambassador program been around?
To the chair, I believe this is the 2nd year for the ambassador program. So it's
Okay.
a brand-new program.
And we have none come through yet?
None
Okay.
come through, but it's important, and just a great question. And I know the goal behind the ambassadors program is to introduce the public safety divisions to individuals, young individuals, and so forth. Our goal is to get them into public safety jobs. Ultimately, we want them in there, but if they find jobs elsewhere, that's fine. We know that a couple of the ambassadors are lifeguards with the city of Cleveland. Others are moved into EMT with the division of EMS. So they're getting jobs, which is important, but the ultimate goal is to get them into a career in public safety, one of the 4 divisions in public
Okay.
safety.
And Mr. Chairman, to the director, on page 225, under benefits, police and firemen's disability and pension, I also noticed that that is also under the division of fire, right, for 25 million, and under fire is roughly 17 million. With we touched on this briefly yesterday. Does that have to do with our retirees that we pay every year, benefits and stuff like that?
Chair,
The pensions.
person, this is actually our funding of the Police and Pension Board for when people do retire.
Right, okay.
So this is our monthly contribution for all the current.
It's not our monthly, it's our yearly, right? We don't do that.
We pay
right,
monthly,
okay.
but this is the yearly.
Okay.
total.
Okay,
But
that's-
we pay
that's a
monthly,
bit- all right.
But it's
So,
for the
Mr.
current
Chairman, to the director,
Yes.
with the possibility of issue 69, or Senate Bill 69 downstate, which will increase that, have you guys budgeted? Is this part of a budget for a possible increase at the state level, or is this just our obligation this year as it stands?
Director.
Through the chair to the councilman, it's our obligation as it stands.
Okay. Please keep an eye on that, because that could be a big hit. All right. On page 226, under parking in city facilities, for your 120,000, is that for parking at the Justice Center? Anybody?
Anybody can answer that one?
Through the chair, that's for parking at Willard.
For the Willard Garage?
Yeah, Director, if I could answer that?
Well,
To the chair, the councilman, yeah, that's correct. For our members who work at the Justice Center or go to court, they park in the garage here.
okay.
So, do we charge employees who are working at the Justice Center a monthly stipend for, 'cause when I worked around, and I worked for the county, and our parking was paid for, we had to pay monthly through our own checks, right? And then, so this 120,000 for parking is for the Willard Garage, which is here, that you're saying for people who then walk down the street in the Justice Center. How many of those people are there? Mr. Chairman, to whoever can
Who could answer
whoever
that
can
question?
through the chair of the council, but I can get that number for you. You want the number of division members who work at the Justice Center in Park here?
Well, if that's what the money's for. I mean, last year you guys spent $170,000 in parking, and if will assume that that was for the Willard Garage as well. To me, that just seems like an awful lot for parking in our city-owned facility.
And through the chair to the councilman, you know, a lot of that is court mandated. Officers are subpoenaed and they have to go to court, and this is where they park. So that's another aspect of our overtime.
Okay.
The court mandated overtime.
All right, and then also on page 226, under property rental, is that what we're paying a year to rent the Justice Center?
Through the chair to the councilman, I
police-
can answer that.
For the police headquarters, go ahead.
Yeah, that payment is for Burke Airport. We have a few units that are assigned and work out of Burke Airport, and that's the rental fee that we pay.
Okay, and then, Mr. Chairman, to whomever can answer, where's the property rental fee for the Justice Center then?
Through the chair, that's in the non-departmental section.
And how come that's not, Mr., if it's in non-departmental,
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, to whomever can answer, why isn't it in the police budget when it's for the police department? Why are we using non-departmental?
What page, first of all, what
She
page are
said
we looking at?
290.
Through the chair, it's 296.
296? Okay. And under what line item?
6360.
3 million on contractual services for property rental?
Yeah, through the chair to the councilman, yes, that's correct.
That's just not to the Justice Center. That's not what we pay a year in rent over there, is it?
Through the chair, 6360 includes police headquarters rent.
Right, which is the Justice Center, which is where we're paying $3 million a year rent to the county at the Justice Center. Correct? Now, I remember, I was here when we sold it, right? And I said then that it was an absolute disaster of a deal for us. But now we're turning around and we're paying the $3 million a year to rent our space in the Justice Center from the county, correct? Mr. Chairman, to whomever can answer.
Through the chair to the councilperson, yes.
296 is the page.
Yeah, page 296. So, and we've been paying that, when did we sell that? I
don't recall.
2016, 17? So what we sold the Justice Center for, that money is completely gone in back rent, correct? Which, Mr. Chairman, to the director, it's so important that we get that new police headquarters up and running ASAP.
Plus, we're paying maintenance as well.
Well, that was my second. You know, I know Councilman Slipe touched on it with maintenance building. So the 76,000, does that include maintenance at the Justice Center as well, or is that just the districts?
Through the chair to the councilperson, that does not include the Justice Center
Okay.
maintenance.
And then, Mr. Chairman, to the director, do you know if there's any money in capital for improvements to any of the districts currently this year? Because I can tell you this much. I just spent $50,000 redoing the first district's gym. Last year, I spent $500 in fans for the first district. So $76,000 is, that's not going to get the door to the first district fixed when you can only go in one door. So to budget for $76,000, we would love, Mr. Finance Director and the Chairman, to take you on a tour of every single district in this city so that you can see what the men in blue, and we haven't talked fire yet, but for the men in blue have to work, men and women in blue, the working conditions that they have to work in. $76,000 for maintenance building. I'd love to see exactly when that $76,000 is spent and how it's spent. But it's definitely something that we need to bring capital in on as well. On page 230, and I've mentioned this for well over 10 years now, are school crossing guards. Mr. Chairman, to the director, are we obligated under contract with Cleveland Municipal School District to provide crossing guards?
To the chair, Councilman, we're not under contract with the municipal school district.
All right. So, Mr. Chairman, to the director, what would we pay on average for the benefits of the school crossing guards? Because we know that they make $20.50 a day, right, for two 45-minute shifts. But then we're also picking up those benefits because that's the big attraction to the CMSD. What would we be paying out in benefits?
Through the chair, we can get you the actual
All right.
number, but somewhere usually between about 800 for a single, and
Okay.
like about 1,100 for, but we'll
So-
get to the exact
Okay.
So the
figures.
question we want to know what it costs us for the school crossing guards with their benefits included. The entire, to operate school guards, what does that cost?
And then, Mr. Chairman, to Director Drummond. So what we're hearing is that they get paid $20.50 a day, but they'll call off for one shift, not show up, and then show up for the second shift and still get paid the $20.50 a day, even though they're only working half of their shift. I personally believe, Mr. Chairman, to the director, that we should not be in the business, the Cleveland Police should not be in the business of providing school crossing guards. I think that is a CMSD function and is a burden on our personnel who try to hire the school crossing guards. When CMSD has their own process, it's their school, it's their kids. And I'm not trying to downplay the safety of getting kids to and from school, don't get me wrong. But I think this is a burden that falls on our police department that should be the responsibility of CMSD, especially if it's coming out of the police budget.
But
Right.
on that point, my memory serves me correct, as I was here, the reason why we took it is because they wouldn't. And we wanted to guarantee the safety of our children and safeguard at each of our schools. And that's why the city of Cleveland took it upon themselves.
And I believe that that was done before there was mayoral control of CMSD. So now that there's mayoral control of CMSD, there's only one guy who could probably change that. And that's a conversation that we should have with the mayor in regards to taking this burden off of our police department, putting it back onto CMSD, and let this be a function of the school district now that we're under mayoral control and he can just make that request. So I also believe, Mr. Director, or Director Drummond, that we need to look at the pay for these crossing guards to assure that I get it, it's $20.50 a day, but we're under the assumption that they're working two 45-minute shifts. So we'd like to, if we could, Mr. Chairman, put in a request to see how many crossing guards actually called off for a shift last year, but was still paid the $20.50 for the day. And it may not be a lot of money, but when you throw in the benefits to it all, that's where you start getting the dollar pinched out of our police budget. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you for
To the
keeping
chair, we'll
time.
get that information for you.
Councilman Conwell.
Thank you very much. Find one of these. You probably need this right here. No. I'm listening to Council President and Councilmember Joe Jones, and they touched on a point that I was talking with the mayor about yesterday. To the chair, to the finance director. When I look at, let's say you mentioned recruitment first, and let's say you recruited 100 police officers, all right?
Thank you. Do you have?
But then, let's say you recruited them, let's say January the 1st, 100. But when the year is out, you actually have maybe 60 police officers. I think you should put it in a book here, in a finance book, how much, because recruitment costs money. And how much did it cost to recruit those officers? Then you also have to look at attrition. If I recruit 100 police officers and I have 60 left, how much labor dollars did I blow? Like training the police officers, retention, they left, the police officers left. I think Councilmember Joe Jones was right. You got to look at retention, recruitment, but you got to stop saying just recruitment. You got to say recruitment and retention and training, because when you train an officer or train anyone, guess what? It costs money. And then we lose it in uniforms, we lose it in training dollars, training people, and we lost money. And then the media, what the Cleveland.com will say, they're bringing in 200 police officers. But in the long run, you only brought in 160 police officers because retention means a lot also. And I think we're stuck on that, and I need to be there through the chair to the finance director.
Yeah, so through the chair to the councilman, that is an important analysis and one that we're happy to do. We can look at the costs of attrition and everything that you're talking about, and provide kind of a lower level of transparency. So we'd be happy to work with Director Drummond on the numbers and come up with an analysis of the budgeted amount.
And also, if I can chime in as well, through the chair to Councilman Conwell, as far as the recruitment and bringing individuals on, candidates or recruits, we put them through the academy, or the division of police, put them through the academy. There's dollars associated with training them, to your point. As we recruit individuals, once they are actually in the academy, accept a conditional offer to get into the academy and so forth, they also sign conditional offers or conditional letters stating that they will, if they don't stay within a certain time period, I don't have the exact number, DC Fake probably can give you those numbers. If they leave within a certain time period, then they have to reimburse the city of Cleveland.
That's a good thing.
For that. It could be prorated, but they have to reimburse for that training, the equipment, and the things that you just articulated. So we have a system in place to recoup some of those dollars.
Thank you.
So that's the cost, but to the chair, and I like that. That's really good cost. I think that you need to show it in the budget. I think that with me, matter of fact, I know training is ongoing. Your sergeants, the people train, you catch workers doing something right or wrong. You're training them. I think that needs to be included in the budget as well, because you have to footnote it, and the dollars are coming from somewhere. And it's the cost of labor. It's a lot of money that comes out there. Through the chair to the finance director.
Yeah, through the chair to the councilman. That's just a matter of adding a page to the budget book. That's something that we could look at adding. Again, as I stated at the beginning of these hearings, finance department's looking for ways to better the budget book, and feedback like that is important to us, and things that we'll definitely look at adding.
Thank you very much. Something else, when I was looking in here, Councilmember Brian Casey mentioned the program of the ambassadors and how we should cultivate them. Oh yes, I look at budget. I love reading budgets, man, and budget books. When we look at the police force, guys out on the streets, maybe doing community policing, whatever the case may be. But when you cultivate a worker, you have support staff as well. The support staff, accounting, financing, purchasing and procurement, support staff that need to help the police officers while they're out there. I think that with the ambassadors, you don't only, to the safety director, look at putting them out on the streets, but how do we put them in support staff? To the chair, to the safety director.
Can answer that.
Through the chair to Councilman Conwell, the ambassador program is, again, it's a gateway. It's a gateway to get individuals, young individuals, involved in a career in law enforcement, not just law enforcement, public safety. It could be law enforcement, fire division, as well EMS and animal care control. That's the ultimate goal, is to put them through that. It's a pipeline for that. They go through the various divisions, and in some of the divisions, they can be certified in certain aspects. So that's the main goal of that. Each of the respective divisions, fire, EMS, police, animal care control, have support staff in place that you're talking about, payroll specialists, personnel assistants, and so forth, supply clerks, most of which are civilian positions. So they have those individuals, so we don't have to use the ambassadors in those particular roles. We want to, again, get them accustomed to potentially getting a career in law enforcement. But there are times they do assist the various divisions in some supportive fashion.
Yeah, because, with those skills, let's say they learn financing or purchasing and procurement, you got just in time with inventory control. They can learn skills, and when they learn these skills, they can go elsewhere also. I'm not telling them to leave us, but see, a lot of people thinking you just recruiting people to give them a gun and get out there. But I'm not just saying just that, but because you got to narrate to them. Even doing community policing is more than that. You cross-training them, and it's a great, great, great career. As you know, Safety Director, I have a lot of law enforcement people in my family. And my brother just left last year with the DROP program, and he was a police, and my father was one, and my other brother in Los Angeles. So it's a good career, but we talk about supply chains and all of that they can learn to do that as well. If you show other people that, we cultivate them, then we can cultivate them to become police officers, which is a great, great career.
Thank you.
I'm
Councilman?
almost finished.
Okay, no, you're fine.
Okay. The, on page 226, you mentioned fuel, you mentioned batteries, you mentioned just-in-time office supplies. How do you manage and control shrinkage from there to the finance director, to the chair? Like batteries, when you order the batteries, and how do you control that to make sure that we can control our inventory dealing with shrinkage through the chair to the finance director? You got to have systems in place.
Yeah, through the chair to the councilman, I think I understand your question. The way we budget for this is, what we expect the need to be over the year, and it's been pretty consistent if you look at all those categories.
I'm not saying budget. I'm saying like you use FIFO, first in, first out, or LIFO, last in, first out, your inventory control to control the batteries, to control who ordered the tires, to look at the MVRs and all those kind of things. That's what I'm talking about, your inventory control. Because the inventory is a lot of money that you're showing here, and you got to control that, because with gasoline, if you don't control it, anyone could come up and use a gas card or whatever the case may be. The controls, the systems of dealing with inventory through the chair to the finance director.
Thank you. Whoever wants to comment?
As well as fuel.
Through the chair to the council person, on the fuel system, they have to have a card issued by MVM. There's cameras at those locations to make sure it's, a city vehicle. The picture of the person's taken. So on the fuel, it's a very succinct system. So you have to have a city card that lets you access the fuel system, and there's a picture taken of those individuals.
I can't hear, Mr. Chairman. If the distinguished gentleman could speak up, say it again.
He'll
'cause I
start
couldn't
speaking.
hear.
He'll speak up.
There's also a vehicle card for each vehicle.
Right.
And as far as the inventory relative, are you done, Jim? I don't want to cut
Yes.
you off. Go ahead, Jim.
Just
I'm sorry.
repeat it.
Okay. For the fuel system, the city has fuel cards issued by MVM, and they have to go to the fuel stations run by MVM.
Okay.
And there's cameras, and it also takes a picture to validate that it's a city car and a city employee that's filling up the vehicles.
Thank you. Thank you.
So you're going to, like with the tires and things like that, safety director?
Yeah, to the chair, that's through MVM. Yeah, that's all. There's a system in place for everything. As far as inventory, you mentioned batteries and so forth. That's through the individual departments and divisions and so forth, the individuals that they have managing those particular items, office supply items. They conduct their inventory, and as stated, the numbers financially have been pretty consistent over the years to make sure that we rotate the inventory through and only order what's necessary and needed for efficient work of the officers and support the officers on the street.
So let me ask you this question here. Let's say you have a fund. We're doing fund transfers. You didn't deplete all the fund, and you come back to it. Let's say you left $50,000 still in the fund. So what do? You add other money to it, or you do a fund transfer through the chair to the controller?
To the chair, to the council person, yeah, we would just do a transfer, additional transfer into that fund.
Transfer it out.
Requested, right.
So you're do that still in the storekeeper, your storekeeper system. You have a storekeeper for this department here, because when inventory go in and out.
To the chair, to the council person, most of their inventory that you see on here comes through MVM, tires, gas, and most
It
of
comes to what you.
it comes through MVM. So this is just their charge for those items. They have a inventory system there, and periodically they're audited by internal audit, and even the state auditors kind of look at MVM's inventory because they have a lot of inventory at MVM with the car parts and tires and so forth, and the fuel system. So it's looked at, not only they have a system that they run for inventory at MVM. It's also looked at by internal audit periodically, as well as the state auditors will take a look at the inventory system at MVM.
Okay. Councilman?
So to the chair, you mentioned that the purchasing orders, really, that's what you're talking about. Let's say you had $50,000 to order tires, but you only, through the chair, you only was able to you had a backlog of tires. You only were able to purchase $40,000 worth of tires. So do you have anybody to audit the purchase orders? Because sometimes money is still left on those purchasing orders, and you could use the money, but if you don't go and inventory your purchasing orders, then you still have money just out there. So what kind of system do you have to manage this here?
Yeah, through the chair to the councilman, an advantage, they do a partial receiver of that. So if you ordered 50,000 in tires and you got 40,000, you would write down the number of tires you got.
Right.
There'd be a balance left on that. Periodically, we look at all POs and purchase orders, and if they no longer need it, we'll decertify them, and then it falls to the bottom line. But the people that receive these have to fill out a receiver document of how many they actually received, and if they didn't receive the entire amount,
Gotcha.
the remaining balance is left on that PO.
Thank you.
On that purchase order.
Right.
Okay.
Correct.
So when you do, and I'm looking here in my last, you got charges for MVM, motor vehicle maintenance. Motor vehicle maintenance, that's what that acronym stands for?
MVM, yes.
Yes.
That's correct.
Okay, so with a worker, let's say you're a police officer, and this is in personnel, safety director, what you're telling me is that they do an audit around the cars per shift with the MVM. You go around, you look at, do we need tires? Did you get the, looking at antifreeze and things like that to do preventive maintenance? But do you do an MVR with that as well, motor vehicle report? Because sometimes drivers might have so many points, 6 points, 8 points, whatever the case may be. Sometimes your drivers might have went through OVI, and you don't really know, so how often do you check to see where they're at?
Through the chair to Councilman Conwell, the Division of Police has system as other divisions as well under the Department of Public Safety and throughout the city where vehicles are used. We have believe, and DC Fay, you can correct me, I know it's annually, if not biannually, driver's license check to make sure that individuals are valid and that they're not operating our vehicles on their suspended license or not with a license at all. So that's a check that's done in the Division of Police and other divisions. And again, I would imagine through all of other city departments where vehicles are used. As far as the Division of Police in particular, there's a requirement for all officers, again, using vehicles that they do a vehicle check on body camera where they're checking the things that you're referencing as the cameras itself in the vehicles, the tires and other parts of the vehicle. And if there's an issue, they have forms that they'll fill out and send that form with the vehicle to motor vehicle maintenance for repair or replacement of certain parts. And so we have a system in place to make sure that those are adhered to.
Yeah, I'm going to wrap this up. What I do, To the chair, the finance director, when I look at your budget, just, I see it on the face, I see the numbers, but what I do, I go deep inside the numbers, what the numbers are telling me, and I look at systems all the time. And that's why I was asking you the different questions. But I'll look this over again and again and again, and I call the safety director. He and I are good friends. And actually, I talk with him like I was talking with you outside in the hallway because it means a lot to me. And I walk and I think about it.
Thank you,
I'm
Councilman.
not leaving just because I got an appointment.
Okay, thank you.
I got to go there.
Thank you. I have Councilman Cormack, then Councilman Joe Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to just take a minute or two expanding on the line of questioning on maintenance. So in the budget, $76,000 for maintenance of the districts. It's clear from council, and I think we all understand that that is shocking. I mean, one room in the second district could absorb hundreds of thousands of dollars. And Director, through the chair, I'm not talking about roofs, boilers. I'm talking about like basic maintenance. So, Chair to the Director, how did we arrive at that number? In my mind, you would reach out to the district commanders and say, hey, what is your wish list? They would develop a wish list of maintenance needs. How did we arrive at the 76?
Director? Who can answer that? I will say, while you're looking for that magical number there, I've asked Director DeRosa to put together a list of capital for all four of the districts because of just your concern and others about the overall condition. Who wants to respond to that?
So through the chair to the councilman, the way we put the budget together is we get these numbers directly from the divisions. So that 76,000 came from safety.
To the chair, to councilman, the district commanders, obviously, they're aware of their facilities, as well as myself and the command staff. The district commanders, with their staff, will document the needs, send that information through the chain to the chief's office, and then over to my office. And that, based on that, when they send information, but there's not a dollar amount attached to it, obviously. It's just that something needs to be repaired.
Okay.
Based on that, then it comes to my office, through the chief's office, and we work on trying to accomplish getting those particular repairs done through my office. I have a built-in maintenance superintendent, and we work with the finance department and others to take care of those particular building maintenance needs.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, I'm not on the safety committee, but I would recommend that we do a tour of these districts as a council. I'll reflect back to an opportunity we had to go to the Ridge Road Station and toured how terrible this is not police, but I'm connecting it back. The break room was for our waste collectors and some of the facilities, and we would put a light on that, and then that was fixed. Well, not fully, but it was improved. So my point is here that I go to the second district director. With residents have issues. We work with the police department on all sorts of different issues. Lockers, toilets, floors, paint, HVAC. I could go down and down and down the list. Again, I could spend this $76,000 to do part of the work in one room in the second district. So I think as a body, Mr. President and Mr. Chairman, we need to look at, in this budget, reconciliation, increasing that number. I mean, it won't be scientific. We need to do an analysis. But I can tell you that there are, and I'm not talking about any capital. Before we even talk about capital, there is millions of dollars of maintenance that needs to go into these facilities. I'm comfortable saying millions. So I think, and I know we're not going to find millions in this exact budget, Mr. Chairman, but I'm just saying that as a part of the conversation, Chair, around capital in the second district or in the districts, I don't want us to just focus on, it needs a roof, it needs a boiler, that stuff's critical, but there's so many other maintenance issues just to bring these facilities up to basic, respectable facilities. I mean, I've heard anecdotally, but I've been in the facilities recently, and my Lord, I mean, it's bad. So, and our police officers that are showing up every day, as well as EMS. EMS uses these facilities in addition. They're based out of some of these facilities. And then, of course, our residents interface with these facilities as well. The point is that, Chairman, I think we need to take a hard look at, put that request in, not into necessarily staff, but into this body that we consider in the reconciliation process, increasing the maintenance line item for the divisions, for the Division of Police, for the districts, again, just for the basics. I understand we're going to look at the bigger picture, and I support that. I mean, quite frankly, the second district needs a bulldozer taken to it and rebuilt. But before we even get there, Mr. Chairman, I think we need to increase the $76,000 line item. It is shocking to see that.
Yep.
And I mean, again, the lockers alone in the second district is probably $75,000. I don't know, to replace the toilets. You know, we could go on and on. I know, Director, your hands-on, you're in these buildings. I know I'm not going to get an argument against this from you, but from the legislative body who deals with these dollars, I think in the short term, even before we get the capital budget for these facilities, we need to increase this line item to allow for more projects to happen in these buildings. And then the only other thing I'll say, President and Chairman, to the Director, what I also want to look at is we've got companies in downtown, to speak for downtown because I represent it, that are either moving into new buildings downtown, which is great, or they're shifting the way they work and they got furniture. And so I know that that requires legislation to accept a gift, but I want to take a look at how do we, some of these companies have either brand new or very lightly used furniture that we could bring into our districts. I'm sure fire as well. I'm just thinking police now because we're on that topic. To supply higher quality furniture. And again, this is not people's junk. This is either brand new or very, very lightly used stuff that the furniture component in these districts is also a really important component. And if we can take advantage of that partnership, I think that'd be really helpful. But Chair, I'll end well within my 15 minutes, but just saying that I think we need to just take the leadership role on this and increase that maintenance line.
Thank you. And I think you speak on behalf of all of us. The 5th District is an embarrassment as far as I'm concerned. A lobby, just the lobby for the general public is an embarrassment. And so when I get on an elevator and I look at all the painting around here and new benches being put out in the hallways and all this other stuff, I ask myself, where's that money? And we're going to get to that point, some point in this budget, what that dollar amount is for all the redecorating on the second floor and beyond, and yet we can't get walls painted in the district houses. We can't get the very basics done. So that's going to be a major issue. I appreciate you keeping time. I have Councilman Jones. He's the last on our list after. Councilman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, we're gonna go into fire, and then after fire, we're going to adjourn, and then we're going to take our break, and then we'll be back. Councilman Jones.
Mr. Chairman, I won't belabor the point, and I appreciate you putting me back on schedule. What I wanted to talk about when we look at the Division of Police, and we have all of the numbers here in front of us on page 299 in terms of the police officers, we have specialty units, and I wanted to see, is that all of our specialty units, are they out of these numbers here? Mr. Chairman, to the Safety Director.
Whoever can answer that.
To the chair, yeah, every officer is listed on this document that's in front of us. Our specialty units, our patrol section, it's all part of the document, finance documents that you see in front of you, yes, sir.
And then what I would like to get, Mr. Chairman, from the Safety Director, I don't know if this is available, a breakdown of all of those specialty units that we have. Can you go through a list of them? I know there's at least 9 of them.
To the chair, we have more than 9. We have, if you're talking about all the specialty units, I can't list them all off. We can get you a
we'll
list.
make that request.
Yeah, we can do that, but we have multiple ones.
And
SWAT unit,
here's the
domestic
point. So
violence unit, homicide.
So would you have 15 units, maybe?
No, it's more than that.
20 units.
Staff hear the request? Okay, thank
But
you.
I'm just getting, because it leads into my next question,
Okay,
Mr.
keep
Chairman.
going.
So, Mr. Chairman, to the Safety Director, so how many units roughly preliminary? You may not have to be exact, but is it 15, is it 20, or what?
It's south of, I would say, north of 20 units. And I could be wrong. I don't want to give you numbers because I don't want anyone to come back so, Director, don't know what's going on. It's quite a few units,
and that's
so let's say
fine.
around 20 roughly.
Okay, so
This might be more
and
than
I'm
that.
not going to hold you to it. But on every single unit, how many police officers? What does it take us to man those units, and what does that number look like?
To the chair, I don't have those numbers. We'll have to get those particular figures because each district has a different unit. They have a detective unit. Those numbers vary based on analysis. For the detective unit, we have a SWAT unit. Those numbers vary. Domestic violence unit, homicide unit. So it's various. K-9 unit, again, it varies. There's not a specific, so I can't tell you in particular how many officers are assigned to those particular units.
And Mr. Chairman, here's what makes this really important, because the issue of safety is numbers, right? And so knowing what those units are and how many police officers are deployed, Mr. Chairman, to the director into those positions is very important, because it gives us a better idea and an understanding where our assets are positioned. So, Mr. Chairman, to the safety director, if you could make available to us a request, Mr. Chairman, for information that we have a breakdown of those specialty units, how many people are in those specialty units, and a brief description, because we used to have that at the table in years past when the director, Mr. Chairman, would come to the table and talk about the progress of the police department and the various units during the budget hearings. So we haven't received that information this year, and I would ask, Mr. Chairman, if we could get that information, which would show us an actual breakdown. And Mr. Chairman, the safety director in years past was so thorough with their reports that they even broke down to ethnicity. I think I'm saying that right.
We had that during the budget, and during the department review.
I know, but we didn't have the breakdown, Mr.
Okay.
Chairman, of the numbers. And so that's the reason why I'm requesting that, Mr. Chairman. If we have those numbers, that would help us. And then also where our major assets are, because I know that we do a number of programs here. We're dealing with drug bust in the city, in the neighborhood, and we have partnerships. And then that would also be those units too, Mr. Chairman, to the safety director. If you could get that, do you know when we might be able to have that information, Mr. Chairman, to the director?
We'll make that request, and when the director could provide that to us.
I appreciate that, Mr.
Thank you.
And that's it, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
See how easy that was?
That was an easy one. Thank you.
All right.
Councilwoman Stephanie House-Jones.
Thank you. Through the chair to the team here, good morning. A lot of questions that have been asked, but I just, 2 points. One, as it relates to the COPS hiring program grant that we have. I know it's a 3-year program that will help supplement 30 police officers to help reduce violent crimes. And so, as part of the grant, I believe it was $3.75 million that is allocated. Again, I'm just take a step back. So it's like, can someone explain to me how is that incorporated into this budget, since 30 of our police officers' kind of salaries or benefits are subsidized by the grant, and you can kind of, and how is that reflected in this budget? Because this budget is supposed to cover the salaries of all of our officers. So,
You could answer that.
yeah. And that's ordinance 230-2024. It's the personnel is, well, the breakdown is the grant award was $3.75 million. The in-kind funds is about $4.45 million. And if the in-kind is what we're already contributing, but like break that down, and how is that reflected in this budget? Or are we, yeah, I don't know. So that's why I'm asking clarification.
Yeah, through the chair, we get grant revenue on page 228.
Okay.
So the grant revenue is loaded into the police budget.
You said 228?
28.
Sorry, 228, yes.
Okay.
And then it's loaded into the general fund, and then it's used to pay the officers out of the general fund using this grant dollars.
Okay, and so is the grant revenue this 1.9 million reflective of the COPS grant in its totality? Is that the only one? Or what is this reflective of?
Mr. Gentile?
Yeah, through the chair to the council, to the councilwoman. Yes, this is the only grant that's in the general fund is the COPS grant
Okay.
provided by the feds.
Okay.
Okay, appreciate that. Thank you. The other question that I have is regards to the retirement fund. Okay, so can you, I see on page 225, the police and fire disability pension, it is slated to be 25.76. In this budget, we pay 24% of our police retirement, correct?
Through the chair to the councilperson, the police officers are 19.5%, the firefighters are 24%.
I'm sorry, say it.
Sorry, the police officers are 19.5%.
Okay, they are 19%.
And the
fire
firefighters,
is 24.
once you get the
Okay,
fire, is 24.
and so this is a clarification. So for the remaining employees that are in the PRS system, what, do we know what contribution we give to our other division people?
Through the chair to the councilperson, that is 14%, and all these are set by state statute.
Okay. I know, we're going to go through this for every department in the city of Cleveland, and we're going to, by the end of this, we're going to have a whole theme. But I appreciate you indicating that. And how many employees are in the PRS system in the Division of Police? I'm trying to.
Whoever can answer that question.
Through the chair to the councilwoman, it'd be the non-uniform.
17, 19.
On what page?
So this would be pages 228, 229. We're counting.
Approximately
How many?
approximately 216 if you take the patrol officers.
But in this one, it's 216-ish.
Yeah, correct.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Council Lane. Okay, I have no one else on the list. I had a text that came in and asked me this on page 226, under towing. When we tow a vehicle, there is a charge for that vehicle to the person who's having their vehicle towed. Where does that revenue show up at? Because you're saying you have $250,000 for towing, but if someone gets their car towed, their vehicle towed, they have to. There's a charge for that. Where does that charge go to?
To the chair, I believe, and again, Deputy Chief Fagan, correct me, I believe that goes, I don't know where it's shown here, but it goes in the general fund.
So the 250, what I'm trying to get clarification on, the 250 is that's what we're paying out for the tow. We're paying the towers, correct?
To the chairperson, correct.
Okay, so then the fee, the towing charge, the storage charge, where does that show back up at?
To the chair, I think it's on page 226 under charges for services, 400.
Wait a minute, 226.
Through the chair, I believe that's 228.
I'm sorry, 228, yes.
228, that would be charges for services?
To the chair, that's correct.
Okay. So if you will break that out for us.
Yes.
Okay.
And
Okay.
Director, if I could just comment on that?
Yes.
To the chair, the 250 specifically is for our process tows. So when we ask a towing company to come out and process tow a vehicle in connection with a violent crime, that's where that fee comes out of.
So that isn't for us towing someone's car?
That I'd have to check with the finance director, but most of that is our process tows, and when we have auctions,
Okay.
we pay tow companies auction fees.
Okay, if you will provide us that additional information, we'd appreciate it. Okay, without any further ado here, we're going to move on to fire, and then we will adjourn, we will break, and then we will resume back in the order that has been listed by the calendar. Okay, thank you, Director. Okay, we'll be right back. Fire.
Page 231, Division of Fire.
What
Fire
page again?
231.
231.
Fire Chief Anthony Luke. Page 232, 2024 unaudited salaries and wages, $77,084,574. 2025 budgeted, $72,691,687.
Okay.
Page 234, 2024 unaudited total expenditures, $116,129,747. 2025 budgeted, $114,417,979. Page 235, number of employees as of December 2024, 764. Budgeted for 2025, 773. Chair.
Okay. Director.
Yeah, through the chair to the committee, just wanted to point out some more green sheets.
Green sheets,
and
we have
these-
them. Do we have them?
Should.
Yes.
Okay.
So you should have pages 231, 232, and also 233 and 234.
We also have, wait a minute, let's get this straight. We have 235, and then on the back side would be EMS 236. Okay, we've got that. Okay, keep going.
Yeah, and then after 234, the next green sheet should be 235, 236, and then we've got 239.
They don't have that.
Oh, sorry, that's all of them. And those are, I think, Ms. Gallagher can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe all those are related to the change in personnel with the police that we talked about earlier.
Okay. You care to comment on anything pertaining to Division of Fire?
No comments, we're open to questions.
Okay. Chief, welcome at the table.
Morning, Chair.
Can you tell us in 2025, do you anticipate bringing on additional firefighters?
Chair, that is correct. We anticipate bringing on 40 additional firefighters.
Okay, so that would be under, on page 235, under Apprentice Medic Fire 1, or 1 Fire?
I believe that is correct.
Okay. Okay. Do you have any idea how many people left this year? Or left last year? Retired?
That would be an estimation, sir. I believe we had roughly 11 or 12.
Okay, fine. Then on page, let me get my bearing straight here. On other contractual, on page 233, we went from 89 unaudited to now 136,000. Can someone explain to us why the substantial increase? Page 233 under other contractual.
Through the chair, the 136, the 136,000.
Yes.
That is for 15,000 for recruitment activity. They have a contract with Lexipol for 81,000, and they have
Who, you have a contract with who?
Lexipol.
Who's that?
Believe it's an online system for it has policies around fire, training courses, and wellness for the.
Okay, okay. And so we'll ask for, you can provide that to us in writing. Sure. Okay. We have the chief here, we have the director of finance. The director's making a pit stop for a moment, like we all need to make one shortly. Questions of the committee? Councilman Slife.
Two things. One, Councilman McCormick and I kind of left on this end of the table. If we're going to talk about $76,000 per police district, $15,000 for all of the fire stations is woefully inadequate for routine maintenance. So I'm just going to state that as a proven fact. So we'll discuss amongst ourselves.
Isn't it?
Well, wait a minute. Let's get a response, because I think just to fix the clock tower at and
let me say, last year it was a little over $1,000 was spent in this line item of building maintenance, that's how much it would cost to put a carpet in your house.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, to that point, while
Yes.
they're looking this up,
Yeah.
that's kind of the same question
Yes.
that I had earlier to describe what this actually is. Is this basically just cleaning a pipe? Is this fixing fixtures on the bath? On a shower? The reason I'm asking that is because it's a difference between big time maintenance and just some of these small little things. And I agree, some of these numbers just look extremely small if you're talking about what kind of repair. And I'm thinking if that is in another line item, because you can't tell me you're trying to keep these buildings up with 1,000 and small amounts.
$1,580.
Like this.
Well, it's zero.
I hope that we're doing that. Looking and making sure we're identifying the right line item where we're taking care of these buildings.
And it's zero for fire apparatus. So,
Yeah.
Councilman Slife, continue.
Again, I know firsthand that many firefighters are using their own energy and money to keep up their, their home away from home. And as appreciative as I am of that and thankful to them, that's not how it should be. I want to, though, pivot over to uniform personnel and uniform overtime, and recognizing that unlike in the Division of Police where there are a substantial number of vacancies, that isn't the case in fire. Beginning with uniform personnel, there is a proposed drop of let's call it $600,000 between 2024 unaudited and 2025 budgeted. Could the administration comment on the decrease in budget for uniform personnel on page 232?
On 232, who would care to comment?
So
Listen up, everyone, please.
Through the chair, so we don't have a 27th pay in 2025. So that's
Okay.
where you see the slight decrease.
Okay, thank you for that. And then on uniformed overtime, I went back through my previous budget books. In 2020, we budgeted about $8.3 million for uniformed overtime, and in the 2021 unaudited, we more or less hit that exact number. But in the 2021 budget, we dropped uniform overtime to $7,670,000, and that number's carried through in every budget book moving forward, and we have demolished that number every single year. Some years coming closer to that $8.3 million, other years nearly doubling it entirely. Could we receive, how do we determine this budgetary line item, and is this an adequate number based on precedent demonstrating that we always spend more than $8 million on overtime?
Okay. Tell us, who obviously it wasn't developed in a vacuum. How was that number developed? Chief, or whoever can answer.
through the chair to the councilman, this is developed in conjunction with the division and what they submit.
So fire submitted
Through the chair.
that number.
This is also our goal for overtime for fire. Now, fire is a little bit unlike police. They haven't had substantial vacancies over
Right.
time. So again, this is our goal to try to bring fire overtime in at 7.6. We appreciate that it's been higher in the past couple of years. But our goal again is to get a grasp on this and try to alleviate some of this overtime, especially as we're fully staffed for the most part in fire.
Okay.
So based on Councilman Slav's question, so with the 40 officers coming on, presumably this year, you're telling us that we'll be adequately staffed? I need to know that. Is that chief or whoever can answer, or director?
Through the chair, that's correct. We just finished up, we being the division of police, division of fire chief and part of his command staff, we just finished up the 1-for-10s for hiring cadets. So we'll have an academy class. We're budgeted this year for a cadet class of 40. We also, obviously, through attrition, lost several individuals' retirement and some resignation through the Division of Fire. So we will be relatively fully staffed. Again, through attrition, we'll get to our numbers. But with that said, there are some contractual obligations. The chief can speak more intimately about that, there are some contractual obligations that we have relative to staffing. Again, chief can speak more intimately about that.
Councilman Slife, you want to continue your line of questioning?
I would be interested in hearing that. I guess my goal is, and I appreciate that it's a goal. I'm merely questioning if our goal is artificially low, and if last year we had to transfer nearly $4 million into personnel in the transfer ordinance, should we be a little more upfront at this point in time about where that money should be in the budget, versus where we ended up placing it and ultimately having to transfer it to?
So who would care to respond to that? Director, chief?
Our goal, as stated, is to come within the numbers that's there, which is the numbers that you see in front of. That's our goal, the $7.6 million, and that's the goal of the fire chief and his command staff, to come within those numbers. We strive very diligently to do that, but again, because of some contractual obligations and staffing requirements, that sometimes that's challenging to reach, to be quite frank.
Councilman?
And I'll get off the point, but I'll just, I understand it's 6:30 in the morning and the fire's still happening and people can't just leave because their shift is up. I understand that there's a lot of moving parts. I'm not seeking to question whether or not it was valid overtime, as much as just say if there's year over year a cost exceeding what we've been budgeting for, should we have a discussion about coming closer to an average of what we've seen, maybe getting rid of some outlier years. I can throw some numbers around and maybe we can have that conversation. My final question within the revenues, if I'm not mistaken, licenses and permits would be tied to building permits, whereas charges for service would be more inspections. I'm sorry, on page 234, could finance or public safety remind me the difference between charges for services and license and permits in the revenues item?
Through the chair, the charges for services are the revenue that we get from Bracknell and Lindale for fire calls to those areas. The fire permits, through the chair, are under licenses and permits.
So are those the only two that we have reciprocal agreements with right now?
Through the chair, yes.
Okay. So to the viewing public, to the chief, if there's a fire in Bracknell, we respond. If there's a fire, what's the other city? Lindale, we respond.
To the chair, that is correct.
Okay. Councilman?
Okay. I'd make an academic argument that revenue should be, projection should be decreased based on year over year. And certainly we're not seeking or hoping that there are fires in Bracknell and Lindale. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
So through the chair, they actually have been in contact with, Lindale has caught up. Bracknell still owes us for several years, but they are on a monthly payment basis now, so they're going to get caught up over the 12 months from what they did owe us.
So wait a minute. So what does Bracknell owe us? Do you know?
Probably around 700,000.
Through the chair, the Department of Public Safety, through my assistant directors, working with both Lindale as well as Bracknell to make sure they're paid up. As stated, Lindale is. We're working through the process with an agreement with Bracknell that they'll come up within this year to come to full payment. So there are more dollars owed by Bracknell that we're working on getting.
So wait a minute, wait a minute. So they establish a payment plan, or they have not?
They have
They have,
established,
okay.
yes.
Okay, Councilman Slade.
I'm gonna have to get their driver's license revoked or something. They're pulling over our drivers. They can't pay our money. The license and permits, that also includes routine fire inspections for commercial structures. Is that correct? Is that?
Through the chair to the councilperson, we normally don't charge for routine fire inspections for business occupancies. The charge is related to any required permits and licenses that they need.
Okay. I do have an operation. Thank you for that clarification. I have an operational question that I will hold on commercial fire inspections. I know that had been a point of discussion a couple months ago, and it would be useful for us to get an update on it. So, thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Jones. Yep. Oh, House Jones, okay. Councilman, where did he go? Okay, House, okay, he's gone. Councilman House Jones.
Thank you. To the chair, to the team here, this just sparked a question. I guess in 2024, how many, incidents, or do we keep track of incidents where we may question? Did we offer support to any other municipalities in 2024 on fire incidents?
Whoever can answer.
Through the chair to the councilwoman, Cleveland Heights, East Cleveland, those are the two that come to mind readily.
So do we track that, and do we know what is that where the cost comes in? You charge people for that, or?
Through the chair to the councilwoman, those would be considered what we call mutual aid costs. We do not charge for that. We just have a mutual aid agreement with our surrounding communities that if they need services, they can call on us to provide. And if we need additional services, we can call on them to provide. The major one that comes to mind when we had the line of duty death with Johnny Tetrick, all of the suburban communities came in and staffed our stations for approximately 10 hours so that our members could go to the services, and they didn't charge us for that either.
Okay, so that it's to go in the back and forth. Okay.
Yes.
And I'm assuming that was the same for our police, correct? The mutual aid.
To the chair of the councilwoman, that's correct.
So just a request, if we could get a breakdown of what that looked like in regards to mutual aid within our Department of Public Safety, what it looked like going out and coming in, both ways, so that we can look at the analysis of investment according to the budget. That would be helpful. And then the other question that I have is regards to the retirement. So, right here, I think it's on page 232. So I'm seeing for OP&F, we are slated to have about $17.1 million go there on behalf of our fire team. And then for PERS, let me see. I know how many people are we paying into PERS for 14%?
Through the chair to the councilwoman, I believe it's 13. The Division of Fire has 13 civilian staff,
Okay.
and we're budgeted for 757 uniform staff.
All right. Okay. And then through the chair to the team here, do you have just I'm always going to go back, of when OP&F was created in 1965, does anybody here have the historical context of when the pension fund was created, which had this 19% public government contribution?
Does anybody have that?
No.
That
And I'm
historical
requesting it, so don't worry. I have put out a request for it. The reason why I think this is important because we need to understand the actual context in 1965 compared to 2025. Not only the context of it, but understanding what were the actuarial analysis that was done in 1965 to talk about the pension fund, to talk about what was the life expectancy for people, you know, who took a public safety career, 1965 compared to 2025, and then to understand you know, life expectancies and how long was a pension supposed to last, right, in 1965 compared to 2025. Just hypothetically speaking, a thesis or whatever, we know that people are living much longer, right? A pension that was created to last you 20 years, which now maybe in 2025 when people are living 40 to 50 years longer, the math is not mathing. It is not the same. And so to have the requirements and thinking about it holistically, in addition to from a local government perspective, when our taxing structure is not the same from 1965 compared to 2025, and the responsibility of us here in the local government in the city of Cleveland, we have an obligation to really working in partnership with all of our employees in the city of Cleveland. And we appreciate all of our employees here, and being able and to have this narrative being derived at the State House, really picking winners and losers when it comes to retirement. We want everybody to be able to retire with dignity and having a partnership, but having an undue burden, an unfunded mandate, which will be coming down the pipeline from those in Columbus, is irresponsible. And so that's one of the reasons why I'm harping on this, because this is going to be a significant impact to our budget, and it's going to really demoralize the rest of the workers here in the city of Cleveland that are providing public services. So that's the reason why I am bringing this up, and we all should be concerned, and collectively we need to have a message about if this is a policy change, then absolutely on this side of what people are required to have, then we absolutely need to have policy changes on the tax side, on the state of Ohio, contributing more of their share to this. And this pension crisis that, as people are saying, that the state of Ohio single-handedly, in a lot of ways, has contributed to. So I just wanted to bring this up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Has the administration taken a position?
Yeah, I mean, through the chair to the councilwoman, I mean, she mentions a lot of things. In 1965 to now, obviously a lot's changed mathematically in how we calculate pension contributions and that sort of thing, including mortality tables, like you mentioned, you know, how long people live, and discount rates, what we expect to earn on investments. So those are things that we can look at. Obviously, I think we mentioned yesterday in the hearing earlier, we are concerned about the possibility of legislation at the state level that would increase the required contribution to 24%. So that is something that we're running analysis on, and we've run some analysis already on what the additional cost would be. And you know, we're happy to pass that along. And it is troubling to us, and something that you know, I think that we need to be united in looking at and challenging.
Okay. Thank you. Question to the director and to the chief. Where on page 235, excuse me, are your fire prevention, fire inspectors, arson inspectors? Are they part of the firefighter line item?
To the chair, the personnel in the Fire Prevention Bureau would be in the uniform personnel, so they would be listed under firefighter, lieutenant, captain, and battalion chief.
Okay. So So how many do you have presently assigned to do inspections?
To the chair, we have 21 uniform members assigned to the Fire Prevention Bureau. Out of that 21, approximately 13 to 15 are directly assigned for inspections, if I understand what you're asking.
Okay. So on fire damaged properties, These are the same folks that go on fire damaged properties?
To the chair, if it's a fire damaged residential property, that is not correct.
Okay.
That would be under the purview of building and housing.
Okay.
In those situations, the incident commander, who would be the battalion chief or the assistant chief who's at the actual fire, would make a determination prior to leaving the scene whether the structure needs to be demolished or whether building housing needs to come out and do an inspection on the electrical systems, HVAC systems, whatever.
Okay, so that would be referred to, that, listen up, my colleagues, this is important. So on a residential structure, is it based on a number of units? So what if it's an apartment building? Would it be the same protocol?
I believe it's an apartment building over 4 units would turn it into a commercial structure.
And then it would fall under your auspices?
Well, it's the same situation. The incident commander determines whether to refer it to building and housing, but while the units are on the scene, they will most likely request the life safety officer, which comes from the Fire Prevention Bureau, to come on scene to assess the integrity of the building protection systems, which would be the fire alarm system, the sprinkler system, the standpipe system. But as far as structurally, anything structural with the building, that falls under building and housing.
Okay, because we have this ongoing problem in the city with these fire damaged structures just sitting and sitting and sitting. And all of us in the body continue to ask ourselves, why does this fire damage home or structure continues to sit there? And what we're hearing at the table, this falls under the auspices, under the purview of the Building and Housing Department to take the action, correct?
To the chair, the only variance we would have is a situation where there was suspected arson. So then our arson investigators respond right as a fire incident is happening, but their investigation might take between 30 to 45 days, where the structure has to be preserved because it's basically an evidence scene.
Yeah. And then, but then again, that's going to go where? To Building and Housing too, after the...
After the arson investigators release the property, it goes to building and housing.
Okay. Well, when we get to Building and Housing, that's going to be a big concern of ours, these fire damage structures. That's just under maintenance. I want to go back to the maintenance page, and we're not going to belabor this point. If a firehouse needs to get, we have engine company 31, and they need to get their plumbing fixed. They have a problem with their plumbing. Where would that show up here on your maintenance? On page 234.
To the chair, the normal process for that, my understanding is that wouldn't show up specifically under the Division of Fire's line item budget. You would see that under property management's budgetary allocations.
Go ahead.
You would see that under the Department of Property Management, their budget. Because we would contact property management to tell them that we have a need for a city plumber, and then they would send out the city plumber, which would be encumbered in their budget.
So that wouldn't show up here at all?
No, you wouldn't see it in our budget.
So as it pertains to the houses, the firehouses throughout the city, as it pertains to HVAC, plumbing, we see overhead doors, but so all that would show up under Commissioner Nagel's shop?
To the chair, the councilperson, property management does do some of that work.
And you'll be able to show that to us when they get up here, where that is.
To the chair, correct.
Because we want to make sure, this is a big issue with the council, is maintaining the police districts and maintaining our firehouses. This is a big issue with us. You know, I mentioned, I think the clock at 31, the clock tower, I don't think the thing has ever worked in 15 years. I mean, it's just an embarrassment. We've got these issues, and again, it goes back. We want to make sure our police officers and our firefighters and our EMS personnel are in clean and well-maintained facilities. They have heat, that they have air conditioning, that they have, that the restrooms are working. I mean, I can't stress that enough. I mean, believe me, that's a big issue with us. So I'll leave it at that point. I have one person left on the list, then we're breaking. Councilman Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I certainly don't want to get in the way of lunch, as you have reminded me, but I just want to just take this opportunity because we have a fire station in our neighborhood, in our community, and we have had outstanding service from them. And my comments, points of personal privilege, is to say that we appreciate the work that you do. We appreciate our chief. Every time I've had the opportunity to need assistance, it hasn't been much. He's always been responsive. He's always taken care of business. We had a situation that had been plaguing our community for several years. He got right on top of that in his administration. So I really appreciate that. And now the situation finds itself in court. So with that being said, Mr. Chairman, I appreciate the job that our new chief is doing for us. And I appreciate the services that our men and women who are constantly out there battling issues and being first responders majority of the time.
Yes.
So I don't have any unreadiness as it relates to this budget. We need to give them all they need to get, and we just need to make sure that our men and women who are on the front lines have all the resources necessary. With that being said, thank you, Mr. Chairman, for the opportunity of personal privilege.
You know, I have always maintained, and the chief knows as I've said this, and the director, I think we have one of the best fire departments in the country. I've said that repeatedly over my time here in City Council, and I would argue with anybody. When you look at the response, when you look at the professionalism, I think it's as good as any major city in the country, and no one's going to tell me otherwise. Councilman Cormack, you had a point, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So yesterday I provided an amendment to require the previous year's budget in the budget book. I talked to our legal team today. I put it kind of in the wrong place.
Okay.
So we are introducing a piece of legislation tonight that amends a different section of the code to require it. That'll be introduced and passed this evening with the support of my colleagues. But with that, I need to repeal the amendment from yesterday on this ordinance, as it was not the right place to put it, but the other ordinance will be introduced tonight to require it. So we're not getting rid of the requirement. It's just a logistical shift.
Okay.
So, Mr. Chairman, I move to repeal the amendment that I provided yesterday pertaining to ordinance, what the heck is the number on this thing? 156-2025.
Is there a second to that? Second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank
It
you,
is
sir.
approved. We will resume to the administration. We'll resume at 1:15, and we will go in the order as listed in the calendar. 1:15, be back. Thank you. Committee's recessed until 1:15.